Welcome to All Politics Are Local, America's number one radio hip hop talk show. We are live right now, and we have a wonderful show on. Our co-host Zaid Muhammad is on, and we have a full night at 6 p.m. We're going to start off with documenting our movements. Jennifer Black is the co-editor with Mumia Abu Jamal of a new anthology, Beneath the Mountain, an anti-prison reader. And
Loaded.
Yeah, very much, right?
I mean, one wouldn't expect less from Mumia.
You know that's right.
Absolutely, because people don't really realize how much he publishes, continuously publishes, and
hardest working journalism out there. Sorry.
Absolutely, and Zaid, we have another guest on for this half hour as well. Is it? I believe you said it was Mike Africa.
We were originally supposed to have one of our sons, Mike Africa Jr. Mike grew up literally in this work. His mother was taken into captivity. 44 years ago in the day. Yesterday, this is Black August. Mm-hmm. Yesterday was the anniversary of the attack on the Move compound of Powelton Village back on August 8th, 1970. Mike's mother, Debbie Africa, was pregnant when that happened. And he has since dropped a book and done a film, done some great things to, lift up his family's legacy and how that shaped how he grew up. Because he's a consummate activist in his own right. He had a schedule conflict at the last minute, right? So he's not going to be with us. But I'm actually trying to bring him and Jennifer, pay attention. I'm going to try and do a book. We got to do something with these books up this way that I'm going to have to figure out how to organize. And of course,
we're ready for you. Whenever.
I'll link to this particular struggle that I just laid out. Just joined us in the great my big sister and comrade Pam Africa, right? So that and this first half hour is going to be hot.
Right. And so let's run down the rest of the show, and then we'll jump right in, right? At 6:30, we're going to have Reverend Conrad Tillard on, talking about thinking differently about politics, especially about thinking differently about Black politics. At 7 o'clock, we have Reverend Keyanna Jones, an activist from Atlanta, and an activist in about and against Cop City. And we also have an LA filmmaker.
Yes.
Right. LA filmmaker Mathew Solomon talking about his film, Reimagining Safety, and the concepts of what that means. At 7:30, we have Remembering Drew Washington and his family and the Jersey City communities as they're up for the anniversary of August 27th. And at 8 p.m., we have discussion on votings and our discussions this week. Baba Zaid, fill us in on 7:30 a little bit more.
Drew Washington, young man killed in a mental health crisis by Jersey City police on August 27th last year. Out of that fight, in a similar fight we had in Patterson with a young brother, Najee Seabrooks, who was a highly regarded community-based violence interventionist in Patterson, killed in the mental health crisis by the Patterson police. Out of the uproar that we raised around what happened to them, we got signed, fighting for implementation now, the Seabrooks Washington bill. Mm-hmm. This is a bill that calls for the creation of community-led emergency response teams for people,
and especially talking about that
instead of the police,
and especially that would be about like people suffering from mental health crises.
Exactly right.
Oh, that is incredibly relevant, right? Like, and so and 8 o'clock we have on a discussion about voting and elections and a discussion about this week. So it's a roundtable discussion talking about politics of the week before we head out with DJ Rhino and the State of Hip Hop at 8:30. So that is the rundown for the entire show, and we are getting started right now. So Zaid, take it away. Give us.
Let me come back to Black August, and I'll go to Pam first because the origins of all we're talking about. All that is around the same time. Black August lifts up Black radical and revolutionary resistance, including our armed traditions. I mean that from the Nat Turner uprising, the Haitian Revolution, to Jonathan Jackson taking over Marine County Courthouse, trying to extract some of the Soledad brothers from their plight, right? Started in prison, in the California prison system by the Black guerrilla family, with people like Katari Gordon, who was killed in prison on August 1st, 1978. But this year is the 45th anniversary of Black August, because the early organizational trappings of what's now the New African Independence Movement and remnants of the Black Panther Party began to celebrate Black August in the community in a very regular way, in a very intentional way, back in August of '79. Around that time, and Pam, Phil, and jump in here and anytime you want, some messy stuff was happening in Philadelphia, right? When some environmental warriors, who breaking ground called Move, were getting really vamped on and messed up by the police terribly. And one of the very few journalists that would even dare to identify with them or tell their story was a journalist who came out of the Black Panther Party by the name of Mumia Abu Jamal. And one of the ugliest expressions of that police abuse was what I referred to a minute ago, the August 8th attack on their home of 1978 that wound up all of them going into custody and being sentenced to 30 to 100 years for a cop that got killed by friendly fire, which means they did it, right? And most of them did 40 or more of those years, and we lost 2 of them in prison, right? So out of that, background of some intense struggle, we talk about Black August and lifting up our comrades, lifting up Mumia, lifting up, we got some of our folks who move out, some of them got out and lost right after that, So all of that is still in play, So that's the background for this conversation, Mumia, 43 years in captivity now, right? Health on the edge, but still defying his captivity, and just dropped this book with this young woman who actually grew up in some of this struggle to her own right, that we're going to get into in a minute.
Yo, on the move.
On the move. So Pam, what I leave out?
Hey, well, it was in August 17th, in 95.
Come
that
on.
was supposed to have been the execution date of Mumia.
That's right.
It was done, they wanted to kill Mumia on the Honorable Marcus Garvey's birthday, which sent a blow to the nationalist Black community. And what I want to say is so fitting to me that you have Sister Jennifer on, because one of the things Move and Mumia was about is the youth, and educating the youth and all to continue. And you have a perfect example there of Jennifer Black. I met Jennifer, her mother and her father, who are great activists, and she was just a young sister. I believe that she might have been in her first year of college, but her father, John Black, he was he ran a radio station there at the Penn State, and Mumia was, the topic. One of the most things I remember about Sister Jennifer Black, and when I picked up the paper, the Collegian, I think it was, and on the front page was this. Casey was the governor at this time.
Yeah, I remember
that. She jumped in front of him, the front page, with a Mumia banner. He was one that was going to sign Mumia's death.
Right.
But it was the pressure from the people. And I think it is so fitting that here we are in August, and here's a young sister whose mother and father was an activist all the way across the board, and she was raised in it. And and here she is. She done wrote a book with Mumia. So Black August to me, is an educational time. It's a time to bring forth what was going on during that time, in the month of August, and all the great examples that was set. Here's another great example, Jennifer Black, and this book. I'm saying you need to pick it up. I'm going to back off right now. And,
Pam, you're flattering me too much.
oh, it's the real. It's the
We
real.
were inspired by you.
Well, hell,
We were doing our little activities in State College, Pennsylvania, and people from the Move organization in Philadelphia came up and talked to us, and we were just, so
blown
amazed.
away. Yeah, I know how that go.
Yeah.
Their activism. They had already started, before. I think once they found out that Mumia was coming, to Huntington prison,
Yeah.
The father and the mother went right on into direct action. And they confronted the police, like I said, as a young sister. She challenged, this is the governor of Pennsylvania. She jumped in front of them with a Free Mumia banner.
We were just having fun. We were just having fun.
Church. And this is at a time when Mumia's death warrant was on the desk. So and here she is. I am so proud of her.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Pam. I mean,
an activist and labor. And the mother was a teacher. And this is the product. This is the life. And that they left this sister, and I'm saying she has been phenomenal through the years. And her and Mumia collaborated on a book. So I'm saying, I really, really urge people to get this book. Jennifer, I'm gonna go because you only got a few minutes.
Thank you, Pam. I don't even know what to say, but I mean, you've flattered me too much. But thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, let's do this thing. Well, in the time that we have left, and I told everybody it's going to be a hot half hour. We need to let everybody know how Mumia is doing, right, and then jump into this book, right, and talk about how folks can get it and things that we need to be doing right now for Mumia and his comrades.
So, is the question, how's Mumia doing?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, he's still incarcerated, and that's the problem. That's my opinion. Mumia is unfailingly optimistic. He's strong. He is, as kind and caring and considerate as ever. He's as sharp as ever. He's as hardworking as ever. But, Mumia turned 70 years old this year, and he needs to get out of prison, and it's kind of up to us to do it. So that's how he's doing. Yeah.
It's just the health challenges that he's faced just within the last 5 years have been incredible, from COVID to having a heart surgery, congestive heart failure, right? With that diabetic shock he went into, it's been wild.
Yeah, and he lost his wife a couple years ago, a little over a year ago. So, all of that takes a toll, and we can't. We don't have time. We really have to mobilize to do whatever it takes. Yeah.
So go ahead, Pam. You're gonna say something. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm waiting for her to talk about the book.
Okay, all right. So tell us how the book came together. How did that happen? It's a hot book. I was like, whoa, no one has gone back.
Thank you.
On what political repression looks like in the United States and all the facade of mass incarceration work. That book goes back and is the broadest. I'm just saying that arbitrarily up front as an old head, right?
Thank you.
Tell us the story and how that came together.
Well, Mumia and I have done some projects together over the years, especially in regards to education. He was taking some classes at The Ohio State University, and I was facilitating that. And through that process, we would often talk about, just the role of education. And, we're always trading ideas back and forth and inspiring texts and just talking about them. And I do a lot of, education work as well. I'm a college instructor, and just always watching, and also in contact with a lot of incarcerated people, and just very aware of what moves people, and very aware of, that transformational process that you undertake when you become politicized, and just how important that transformation is and what it takes. And it was just an idea, just organically kind of came to us. We conceived this book to be very helpful, really, to anybody interested in anti-prison thought, theory, action, and history. but particularly for people who might not have access to, a library, a university library, or classes or things like that. We thought it might be particularly helpful to prisoners or anybody on the road of, self-education. So that was really the idea of the book and the inspiration for the book, and just to sort of, prove that the most humblest among us, the most, structurally dispossessed among us, really hold the key to, the power that can change our society and change our world.
Tell everybody who's in the book.
Okay, well, it starts with Oni Judge, who many people might not know. She's self-emancipated from her incarceration of slavery. Starts with Oni Judge. It has a lot of people that you might expect if you're talking about the history and thought and theory of anti-prison. It's got Nat Turner, John Brown, Frederick Douglass.
Nat Turner and John Brown.
You better believe it, because John Brown said.
Go ahead.
John Brown said, "Talk. I'm tired of talk. What we need is action," and he meant it. He actually meant that. So yeah, it's got the final letter he wrote to his family before he was executed. Prison. From prison. Yeah.
People forget about that.
Yes.
From prison.
It's got some labor organizers in it. Mother Jones, Eugene Debs.
Wait a minute, who's Mother Jones? I heard that's a magazine that got a lot of that rad stuff in it, but who the hell was that woman?
Mother Jones was once considered the most dangerous woman in America. She was an organizer. She was a union organizer from Ireland, and she just, she scared the ruling class. And she was often intimidated with incarceration, went to jail, numerous times, but was, just an amazing orator, fiery orator and organizer, and, still a source of inspiration for union organizing. So, yeah, it just moves through time. It's got the Rosenbergs in it, people who have, for me, speaking personally, people who've transformed me and my ideas of thinking and acting in the world. Then we move up into, more current times. We have, Angela Davis, George Jackson, Martin Sostre. Some people might not know who he is.
Remind the young heads.
Sure. Martin Sostre is, he went to prison several times and was very instrumental inside the prisons. All this organizing for prison rights, just he's, very respected and known for it in the state of New York. He operated a bookstore, a radical bookstore in Buffalo, New York, when he came out of prison. Just, very well, more in-facing. That might be why people outside don't know about him. More in-facing. And then, we have, the last.
I'm sorry.
What's that? No, go ahead. What did you say?
Jonathan, Martin Sostre was very close to Amiri. Right? I'm just giving some my local heads some history on that.
Okay.
He was very close to Amiri. They were close to each other. Yes.
Okay. That's right. You guys are out of Newark, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then we come to a more current era. We have some people might, the last six out of the last 7 people in the book are still alive. We've got 12 living people in this book. So, it's a living book. So we have organizers right now, on the streets like Safir Ness and Salim Holbrook, who runs the Abolitionist Law Center in Philadelphia. And just,
he's a hell of a story. He's with us on the street all the time, as soon as he got out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just a lot of wisdom. So that's what we were trying to show, is the spectrum, the wisdom, the lessons, the education, the solidarity, the organizing, and the urgency behind it all.
That's loaded. That's loaded. So what hoops in terms of prison bureaucracy bullshit did you have to hurdle to get the book done?
Well, something. It's like, I kind of think of it like the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad. It's just like a modern day information network. And I think we kind of have and like the Underground Railroad, you don't necessarily want to tell everybody how you did everything, because you want other people to be able to do it too. So we did what we can communicate. So we just communicated. there were no tricks, really, nothing untoward or no tricks. It's just various levels of communication.
I raised that because there was a time when the state of Pennsylvania came after any radio station that had state ties.
Yeah.
And you might have been around the time you were in school,
Yeah.
right? That were airing Mumia's commentaries or reporting on Mumia.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And some of them got shut down. Remember that, Pam? Come on, jump in here.
NPR was the main one.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
And they took Democracy Now! Out of Philadelphia.
That's
and,
right.
When Mumia came up with the book, Noel Hanrahan was and it was All Things Considered.
Mhm.
And was one of the things that happened, with Mumia dealing with the radio that they cut off. But I thought the most newspapers and did a complete shutdown,
Mhm.
on Mumia. It was one newspaper. That was a black newspaper. It was a weekly. That Scoop did Mumia live from death row.
Right.
Commentary. That was the first person who did, and it was at the most dangerous time because Mumia was not a worldwide figure then. He was more local, more New York, Jersey, and but this black brother, this elder, and who took it upon himself, who knew Mumia, and just like Jennifer, who know Mumia and knew that the words had got to come out. People had to, who didn't know him, needed to know him, despite what was happening. He took a lot of flack, for just like John Black, and did up at Penn State was the radio station.
That's right, WPSU. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, Underground Railroad stuff and the fight against repression is real.
Absolutely. And not just for Mumia, of course. Mumia is always the first to point this out, that he's just one of thousands, and there's a lot of knowledge and intelligence and genius and brilliance inside the prisons. And it's kind of part of the work is getting the inside out, getting the word out.
Now you are you teach literature, right?
Among other things, yes, I do. Yes.
Did you ever think after the hell you and your family raised back in your college days and whatnot that you'd wind up back at the same school teaching?
There is some irony to that. Now, I actually didn't go to Penn State. I went to school somewhere else, but this is my hometown. Okay. This is my hometown. So there is some irony to the fact that I'm back here. I take intense delight in teaching Mumia in every class. Every single class, I work him and many other people into the syllabus, and that's by design, and it's just a special joy to do that. It's like a mischievous, happy delight. Yes.
I actually have a book project on the shelf. Pam, you know what I'm talking about. We're gonna pull her into this.
What's your book? That's exciting.
Everybody's pushing for me to do a book, Amiri Baraka, and
absolutely.
He told me to take a tape recorder around, with me, and because I told him, that's not, to write a book, and also he said, "Oh, you'll get all the help you need, and just do it." And I was thinking about Through My Eyes. Through My Eyes. I've seen a lot.
You don't see you damn sure seen a lot.
I love that. Is that the title? That's beautiful.
I believe so. Through My Eyes.
I mean, Alex Haley helped Malcolm X write his autobiography. Malcolm X didn't do that all alone.
Yeah.
Malcolm probably could have done better if he'd found out what Haley wound up doing after he died, but that's another story. I'll come back to that because that's my mantra as Malcolm. Okay. You'll find out about that. But also, I wanted to lift up a book, a creative book, because Mumia's, has been writing creatively recently. That blow your mind. The suite that he did a minute ago that was debuted by those young musicians up at Brown University. It was incredible, right? So I want to put this book project together, 70 poems from around the world, lyrical fodder for Amiri, right? For Mumia.
Yeah.
Right. And I want to pin down one of his comrades from the party. And you would be a great fit for that, General. I'm just throwing this out there. You know, you would be a great partner.
Thank you. Keep me posted.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So so we got some hot stuff coming.
Yeah.
Some hot stuff coming. Jonathan, you want to jump in here real quick? You've been quiet. This now. Y'all don't know who this guy is.
Him being quiet.
One of the co-founders of the show is a debate teaching legend. Right, proud of this little brother. He's sharp as hell. Our best interview. You know, I'm a street interviewer. Right. Sometimes you got to keep me from going off. Right.
That keeps it exciting, though.
Always. I was actually thinking about. Well, we're gonna be ordering the book, and I think it's particularly powerful. Why do you believe the book was necessary? Especially because every author in the book is either currently incarcerated or was incarcerated or writing from a position of being incarcerated. Yeah. Why is that so important in our society to have that perspective and to know about that?
Well, I mean, ignoring prison literature would be as remiss as ignoring, slave narratives. The role of the prison in American society is so big and so significant that the literature and words of people who've been in prison are just extremely important, because self-representation is important. That's my opinion, at least. Also, I think that they have a perspective that, other people just don't have. They just have, you just don't know what's happening in these prisons, and you don't know, the strengths and the sharpened tools that people in prison develop.
And democracy is something you got to fight for. Right? We were supposed to, let me put a pin in it this way, Jonathan, as we wind down. At the 7:30 hour, we were originally supposed to have somebody from the Uhuru Movement to talk about the Uhuru Three. 83 years old, Amali Yeshitela.
Yes.
Right? Penny Hess, 77 years young. And a young man from Jesse Neville from St. Petersburg, Florida, who's still in his 20s. But can you on trial facing 10 to 15 years each? Right, because they went to Russia, right, and that story is being whited out, and they're not being, and this is not Trump, looking to lock them up. This is the government, right?
And part of the
inside just happens to be the president right now, but this is the government, right? So it just boggles my mind that we're looking at elders, O'Malley's old enough to be my father, and I'm in my 60s now, right? Going to prison? Are you serious?
Yeah.
But that's America, democracy ain't no fairy tale in America.
And the Senate
represent the truth of
that Mary's background, Brother Yasiteli's background, and Trump as the president of the United States went to Russia and didn't allow none of his American colleagues, the people who was brought over there with him, went into a closed door meeting with Trump. Treason. Told the secretary or whoever was writing the notes, he demanded that they take him. Not only did he slap us in the face with that because they didn't lock him up, but they're locking Yasiteli up, he did one better. He turned around and brought Putin over here to the United States, went into the White House, didn't allow nobody to come in. Who the hell's supposed to be in jail? Who's supposed to be in jail?
That's the father of your white riot, Jonathan.
And lawyers, judges, the Congress. Nobody's speaking up about the injustice that's happening here when they got a clear case They talking about they want to lock him up, do this, do that to him. How come they don't talk about that? But they want to talk about a man who is uplifting his community, uplifting around Africa. You know, a man who got so many out of jail and who's been battling with this government. Trump is on the outside because of corporate America, the corporate thieves. That's who he protects. Yazatelli is threatening to go to jail because of the exposure of all this. And I just want to say real quick, I was with Mike Africa last night when he did his book.
I was supposed to be there. Right. Thank you.
Debbie and Mike Africa Sr. is doing a documentary. I'm saying August is hot, the information that's coming out there, and it's about people who was incarcerated, and this whole thing that this government is saying that people who are in jail, they need to stay in jail, and they got people like Celine, they got Ghani in there, they got sisters who have did time, have come out, and they're the pillar of the communities, you know, where they come from. They're known. You don't hear nothing about them, like you don't hear a damn thing about Trump and on his deed of traitorous. He should.
Tam, you muted yourself. You were rolling.
Yeah, I think that they. I think she froze. I think she froze. Question, right? Like I work with some people this summer, some teachers from Oklahoma, and they were like scared, right? These are white, middle of the road, not real controversial from our point of view. They just teach English, history, and debate, right? They teach ideas. They're not like ideologically. They probably be center right, right? They just think, you know, their most radical thing might be like, you know, racism exists. We should teach the concept of Marxism, right? Because we need to have debates about it.
Yeah.
And these teachers were literally scared. Scared of losing their jobs. Many of them are like, hey, we're retiring, we're getting out of here, or I'm laying low and keeping quiet, right? Yeah. It was one of those things because of the, and this is not just Oklahoma, but in other states like Georgia, in Iowa, all over the country, in high school and college, they are saying that you very specifically are the problem. That in public colleges and universities, you gotta go, right? Because we gotta go. The teaching of history, the teaching of prison literature by predominantly Black and brown people that focuses on the nature of white supremacy, what it's been, how it works, right? Systemic racism, having any conversation about systemic racism. Has that affected you working at a state college? And do you see a difference in the atmosphere?
Great question.
That is a good question. I don't personally feel impacted by it. I think that really, I think it's polarizing people. So what I'm actually seeing is I'm seeing more radicalized students, and I don't really see the other students. I don't see them, but I know they exist. Let me tell you something. Here in State College, we have some of the most amazing student organizers that I've seen in decades, you know, in like generations. Right now, what I'm actually seeing is a radicalized, organized, intelligent generation of student activists that give me so much inspiration. So I just have hope. I mean, I just see them, and I actually have hope because the state always gives us it always gives us the tools we need to recognize the repression. They're constantly repressing people. They're constantly giving us examples. So if I see a radicalization of the right, I also see a radicalization of the left. I see more radical students now than I did when I started teaching 20 years ago.
How about the politicians? Because I was really more talking about the grown folks, right? I was talking about because they're not scared because of the kids in the state. The laws have literally been changed that said if you talk about Black history, if you talk about certain types of politics, you may be fired, you may be charged with a felony. There are programs in certain schools that are just getting cut, like in Florida, et
Yeah.
cetera. And I know that Pennsylvania ain't. Pennsylvania is where Mumia is.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
a. It is not a. It is not a state that is immune to repressive tactics.
Right.
So that's what I was gearing more toward the
Oh, I
adult.
see. Oh, yeah. I mean, they're getting rid of they just canceled the multicultural center here. They're getting rid of DEI. Yeah, absolutely. It's happening. It is happening.
How are you navigating that? Because it seems like
Mhm.
how do you navigate that in the academy? Because I think the work that you do is the reason why I think that there's so much reaction
Mhm.
is because you and academics like you have been so effective
Mhm.
that you've moved like students and
Mhm.
kids to think
Mhm.
and read and do academic research, right? Like, how do you navigate that from the perspective as an adult who is committed?
Well, I hope my answer doesn't disappoint you, but I just pay absolutely no attention to it. I pay no attention to it. I really have nothing to lose. I mean, that's how I feel. I
That's
don't
what
see
my mama
it.
used to say.
I'm sorry?
That's what my mama used to say. Don't pay them.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, it's not a bad position to be in, because it just, I mean, what can you do? There's absolutely no difference in how I teach or approach, my job now than it ever did. But I have to tell you, I'm new to Penn State. I wonder if anybody else see this. I hope they do. I have nothing to lose. What do I have to lose? I mean, it's so ridiculous. I've never had a job important enough that I wasn't worried about getting fired from it, that I was worried about getting fired from it. So that's how I feel. I just pay no attention to it. I
How
teach.
long you been teaching now, Jen?
I'm sorry?
How long you been teaching now?
At Penn State or
You
just
just
in general? Oh, I
yeah.
mean, I started teaching as a grad student, 20 something years ago, 20 some years ago. So I started teaching as a grad student and I've just continued. So it's been over 20 years, but I'm new to Penn State. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, I just have nothing to lose. That's how I feel. I teach exactly what I want. I work hard though. I teach those students. And I think that's what students respond to. They respond to, just somebody who's really there to learn from them
Authenticity.
and learn with them. I'm sorry?
Yes. Authenticity.
Yeah,
Yes.
maybe that's it because I don't know. I just have a really, really good time in the classroom. I love teaching them. I love bringing this information to them. And, we debate in the classes, it's like, it's a place. This is the place to talk and debate. It's a place for them to, try out new ideas and talk them out and think about them and write about them. And I just like to facilitate that process. Let them complain about me. Let's hear it. Let them try.
That means you're doing good.
I don't know. We'll see. But that's what I mean, that is the fun of having young people in your class and you just get to share with them all the things that motivated you. Think about those things that you learned when you were young and what really changed the way you think and like inspired you. I mean, I had my
Malcolm's autobiography in a drug transaction.
What's that?
I stole Malcolm's autobiography in a drug transaction. That's what set me off.
That's hilarious. That's a perfect. I wish I could have had you come in and talk to my students. Last week, I had somebody who spent 52 years in prison and had a transformative educational moment in prison and come in and talk to my students, and they were just transfixed by it. Most of these kids have never been to, don't know anything about prison. But they learned that day. I had them comparing like parts of Malcolm X's Democracy is Hypocrisy speech to MLK's I've Been to the Mountaintop, along with Frederick Douglass's What to the Slave is the 4th of July, just to like pick out what are the themes of like hypocrisy and irony? How does each orator use irony about democracy? It's just like it's just very exciting. I think they like it. I mean, let somebody complain about me. Just let them.
It's interesting. I know we're coming toward the end of our time, but I noticed that among people who want to ban books,
that never works. That's so funny when people do that.
Books, and the way in which they attack DEI, they attack, you know, and it's not that people are beyond critique or criticism. It's just that it seems like an academic way to attack is that you attack the evidence and you vet the evidence, right? You make a claim, you support the claim with evidence, and you see what evidence is what. And over time, you're like, wait, let's check out this evidence is real racist, or here's evidence that supports unconscious bias. Here's evidence that supports, and we can debate about whether that evidence is good or bad, or whatever. And it seems like that's how you have your class. You enjoy your class because you literally debate. Your kids bring up different things. You ask them, again, in an academic tradition, what is the evidence? When people disagree with you, it's about the evidence.
Yeah.
Why is that so essential? And do you think that this move to attack academia, is a move to attack evidence-based reasoning?
I think it's a move to attack radicals, actually, because I mean, that's what I would say. And I think evidence-based reasoning, I mean, I don't know if that's what I'm doing, but what I think I'm trying to do is actually just develop critical thinking skills in my students and myself. Because that, you know, that's what I'm trying to do.
That's right.
Yeah. And I don't see that. I think it's just very clearly an attack on radicals and radical values and anti-establishment values. That's how I'm looking at it.
Okay, well, and thank you so much. I've got one more question, and of course, question we ask everybody.
This is a ritual question, Jennifer.
Oh, good. All right. Oh, I hope I can answer it well. Let me hear it. I don't know.
Who's your favorite hip hop artist, individual or group?
Oh, I mean, KRS-One. I mean, what does everyone else say?
KRS-One. You know, he's in Newark now.
What's that?
Learn.
He's based in Newark now.
Is he?
Wow. Oh, KRS-One is based in Newark?
Yeah. The Trek Center, he took over the Trek Center. That's the Temple of Hip Hop now.
That's so
wow.
cool.
Yeah. Green brought him in.
Well,
Nice.
I can't been telling you. You don't missed it.
Yes. I didn't know he was
the traveling superstar co-host, so he missed half the shows.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Funny, fair enough. All right, but yeah, like I didn't know he was at KRS-One. I knew he had a base.
NJ Pack on the streets with everybody last week. He having a good time. Yeah.
New York is so cool. Wow.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that.
Absolutely. And thank
you. Talk about us like a dog. We don't care. And we don't pay it no mind.
Good.
We absolutely have to have you back. And we actually have to have you back talking about topics that we debate about, right? Like so we want to have you back really soon.
I appreciate that.
There's a topic that we're debating about. It's there should be that that the United States should guarantee a living wage to every person, right? And I would love to get your thoughts about that. So we're going to have you back just for you to just talk to us about that, and especially from your perspective and vantage as someone who works, as someone who writes and about people who are incarcerated. Just a brief touch from that. From your vantage point, if the United States granted everyone a living wage, what would that mean?
I mean, I don't even know how to answer that, but I can tell you that the stress of poverty is it's soul destroying. I mean, you can
snap under that. Talk about mental health crisis.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so, and it's intergenerationally destructive. I mean, think about growing up. I mean, it's appalling that mothers, and fathers, single parents are raising kids in poverty. I mean, it's horrendous and it's scary and it's threatening. And a living wage is just basic decency. That's my perspective. That's my very simple perspective, just basic decency. The level of stress of poverty is just appalling and shocking and destructive. And, right now they only study epigenetics in terms of, the first studies of epigenetics have been for Holocaust survivors, a group of people have undergone this terrible trauma and how it impacts the next generation. I mean, What about being poor and,
we are bringing that. To your point, we are bringing that into the reparations question.
Wow.
Exactly.
There's some recent studies about all
Exactly.
the intergenerational stuff as a consequence of the transatlantic and domestic slave trade, and how that we've been struggling with that over the years. We're bringing that into the reparations argument. The Holocaust question, that there's extensive work on that, work, and it also points to another hypocrisy I wish we had more time to talk about this.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too.
But that just means we have to have you back.
Thank you.
Get you back. Right. So thank you very much for being on All Politics So Local, and we have to have you back a lot more regularly.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, especially now you're the town that KRS-One lives in. I want to be back. I want to be back on your show.
All right, absolutely.
All right.
You come up this way anytime. That's right. We'll take care of you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right.
Good to have you, Tim. Good to have you. Powerful, beautiful.
All right. Well, thank you for the segment of All Politics So Local. We are getting ready for our next segment, and we are always honored and always happy to have Reverend Conrad Tillard talk to us, and we always have lively, good discussions. Reverend, are you there?
Yes, I am.
And I'm gonna fall back and get ready for the next set.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you well. And Zaid, are you hearing background noise from me? Am I good?
Yeah, let me fade back. Get ready for the next set. Y'all go ahead and rock it.
All right, but
well,
no,
brother Zaid,
is my sound good?
I just want to say, while you're here, I don't want to talk about you when you're gone, but I was very disappointed in your words about your brother after I got off the show the other day. But,
my words about who?
Brother Zaid. That's his words about me when I got off the show, and I don't know if he's still here, but I wanted to say it to his face and not to him not being on the program. So I've been waiting a month to say that. So I was very disappointed, and I'm sure he and I have much more in common than he does with the young radicals that he was on with, and found it necessary to say negative things about me. But that's okay. That's all right. But if he's not here, I'll take that up with him. But I certainly wanted to say it to him. But how you doing, Jonathan?
I'm good, man. I am doing well. I'm doing well, and I'm sure that you and Zaid will definitely connect, because that is part of the debate, discussion, conversations that we all have. Sometimes they get pretty intense.
Oh yeah.
And as you know, as it may get tonight, right? Because I have no idea.
We can always disagree,
right?
And that's what we have to understand. We have different politics. We come up in a different community, in different settings, different eras. So you wouldn't expect us to have the same exact perspective. But part of the respect that we have to have for each other, particularly those of us who have been long-term strugglers, Johnny come latelys and shooting stars will pop up all the time. But people who have been around, who have established themselves over a course of decades, are deserved a certain respect, even if we disagree with each other. And I always thought I had that kind of relationship with our brother. And but last week it showed me something different. But I'll talk about that with him.
Okay.
What's going on?
Not much, man. I mean, I listened to a Trump speech yesterday, and he was. I listened to another one last week, and he sounds crazy to me, right? Like, it's not. I know there are tons of people who support him. They're like there, and I consider myself a critical thinker. He rambles. He starts talking about everybody. He starts questioning candidates' racial identity. He starts attacking other Republicans. Like, I don't know. I don't know what it is that, what are we supposed to see in him right now?
I tell you what, we've come a long way from statesmanship. Yes, I saw him and his dismal performance before the National Association of Black Journalists.
Oh my gosh.
I saw yesterday him talking about the March on Washington, but I also saw the
And now he had more people.
I also saw the Megan Thee Stallion rally. I've never seen a presidential rally with somebody shaking their backside. So
hey man,
we've come a long way from statesmanship.
I think there's a difference. Appealing to the young voters, I support that. We got to get. I mean,
fine.
every single vote counts in Atlanta.
Well, that concerns me, but I'm even more concerned about her choice for vice president, because this is a man who passed legislation in Minnesota that if a young child says that they want to transition and the parents do not support it, that he signed legislation to separate those families. So there are a lot of troubling things, and I'll tell you, I don't know who I'm going to vote for, but I do know this: Kamala Harris, Trump, both of their vice presidential candidates, they have to go before the people and answer questions. Joe Biden was elected, never hardly doing any campaign appearances during COVID. They told us for 4 years that he was fit as a fiddle. And then show you how corrupt the media is. On a dime, all of them turned on the very man that they were telling us a week prior to the debate that he was fit as a fiddle. Well, and on the dime, they all turned. No, on the dime, they all turned on him and said that he had to go.
There were questions about him consistently.
Oh, there were never
questions before the State of the Union.
Oh, that's ridiculous. They knew that Joe Biden got into office barely. They didn't ask any critical questions. The media is totally biased, and that bankrupts the media. You can't trust the media. Most of the people in the media are progressives and radicals, and therefore they're not going to give people the truth. They're not going to tell the truth.
Okay, so
they hate Trump, and that justifies their lying to the American people.
Well, first of all, I think that's an oversimplification.
It's not an oversimplification.
No, I mean, you're like, everything is Fox News. There are things that we literally can see about Trump that are that are disturbing.
I'm not here to defend Trump. You haven't heard me defend Trump one time, but I did say the media hates him so much that you can't even depend on the media to give an accurate telling of what he said, nor will they even ask critical questions of Kamala Harris. And that doesn't serve, neither one of those serve the American people well.
All right. So as a question, right? You're not quite sure who you're voting for. And I'm just curious, right?
I'm not. I am not, because to me, it's not about race, gender. No. It's about policies. It's about policies. And I wasn't going to vote for Biden. Kamala Harris gets a little bit more of my consideration because of the historical nature. But I'm mad at the border. I'm mad that since the day Biden got in, he changed policies and created a firestorm of illegal migration in this country. I'm mad at the price of groceries and gas, all of these things, that because he made a decision the day he came in to stop fracking or digging for natural gas, which Kamala Harris, mind you, she's backed away from that position, but that was his position the day he came in office, which sent the prices of groceries up. That's why people are paying more for fuel. So it's about policies with me. I don't care about personalities.
So cool, but you do realize that fracking, there's a lot of stuff about fracking being dangerous, right? Like
I know this.
On the research, causing many earthquakes, destroying land.
Yeah, I know this. I know this.
And on the water,
we have more natural oil in this country.
You can set your water on fire. There are places in Pennsylvania.
I know that we have more natural gas than any other country in the world. And I know that our society revolves and has always revolved around fossil fuel, and it always will, at least for the next 50 to 100 years. If we had even a 10% increase in electric vehicles right now, we would have a catastrophe. We don't have the infrastructure for that. So I don't join the hug the whale crowd. I don't join the greenies. I deal with reality.
People are like, hey, climate change
is real. Deal with reality.
All right. So
people in Newark, they need gas to heat their homes. People in Newark have gas cars. They can't afford a $100,000 electric car like many of the elites that are pushing that.
Reverend, I had the Prime Minister of St. Thomas on a few weeks ago, and he's dealing with devastation of hurricanes.
Yeah.
And at the end of an hour, he was leading up to what he needs from the United States, and it literally is the exact opposite of what you said. He is like the developing. He says that the United States has to change their relationship to energy and capital, and they need to do it.
Let me tell you something.
Because
the developing world will talk to the developing world.
I'm just saying,
will sing whatever tune, depending on the administration in Washington.
Is climate change real? Do we need to deal with it,
Jonathan? Again, I'm not joining the hug the whale crowd. What I'm saying to you right now is the people in Newark, New Jersey.
I was like, is climate change real?
The people in Newark, New Jersey, 99% of them have gas cars. The cost of gas matters to them today and in the foreseeable future. 99% of them have gas in their homes to heat, and they can't afford the price.
Can it really destroy life on the planet?
No, I don't. No, I don't believe that, because I believe. First of all, I believe in God. First of all, I believe in God. I can show you news reports in the 70s talking about the impending doom of climate change. So no, I do not believe in that. That's the cottage industry. I do believe that we have to be stewards of the earth, but I don't accept these
I mean, like,
left-wing articles of faith.
United Nations, the Paris Accord,
that doesn't matter. What does that matter? What does that matter? What does that matter?
Because national scientists, including oil companies, like I'm talking about Exxon, Shell, like those are the scientists who are like, climate change is real. It's not
they're just as many scientists
documents,
and there are just as many scientists that have documented the real the real reality that we have absolutely no ability to determine exactly what's going on. In terms of the
Conrad Tillard, you're actually saying, like, normally I don't push back because a lot of opinions.
Oh no, you always push back.
No, I don't push back as in saying what you're saying is not true. I might disagree with what you're saying.
Well, as far as I know, you're not a scientist. As far as I know, you're not a scientist, so you therefore not. You have an opinion, but you don't have. Okay, you have an opinion.
Nations have said I can look at others. I can look at scientific conclusions.
You and I have different.
The majority of people, and the evidence is overwhelming in one way.
I've seen those studies, and I actually am not convinced, and I don't see the evidence as overwhelming. I see it as a political posture of a particular political party, starting with Al Gore and the movie Inconvenient Truth.
This is worldwide. This is the whole thing, right? There are multiple countries who understand.
There are left-wing politicians in every country of the world.
Left wing, like
it is.
Okay, so there are
and actually, you know what's frustrating about this? At the end of the day, what you're talking about doesn't affect the people of Newark one bit, because at the end of the day, Jonathan, at the end of the day, from this radio program or any other, you're not going to stop this country from using fossil fuel. You're not going to stop this country from using fossil fuel. We import billions of barrels of oil every day, and we will so for the next 50 years. I'm not saying that we won't eventually move to a different type of energy, but what made America the country that it is and made the modern world what it is fossil fuel. And that's just a reality.
There's always,
I don't care how many tree huggers don't like that.
There's changes of energy, and other countries are like China's pulling ahead.
First of all, China. Let me tell you something.
Panels cheaper than we do, right?
Let me tell you something, Jonathan. China and Russia and the developing world is saying to America, listen, you had your industrial age. You burned smokestacks in Cleveland, Pittsburgh. You did what you had to do to get to where you are. You're not going to stop the development. That's China's position. That's Russia's position. That's the developing world's position.
Is also, we're going to be developing a lot of clean energy, and we're going to be ahead in the market.
Yeah,
right?
well,
they are in solar panels. They make solar panels much cheaper than the United States.
All right. Well, I thought we were talking about.
We're also ahead in electric.
I thought we were talking about this election cycle. I guarantee you. I guarantee you, in the next 4 years, we're going to be using fossil fuel, and it was much cheaper when we were fracking and digging and had pipelines in America.
You were like fracking great, and it's
Yeah, it is great. It is
it's
great.
not necessarily great
Until we transition to a different
dealing with
energy.
it, right?
The gas
So-
was much cheaper during the administration of Donald Trump. That's just a fact.
Okay,
That's just a fact. That's just a fact.
so
If you're energy independent, you pay less for the oil. We are importing billions of gallons of oil in this country, and we will do so for the foreseeable future.
We're right now the biggest producer of oil in the world. We
and we need to and we have more than anyone else in the world. We have more than anyone else in the world,
right?
And we have enough to meet our own energy needs until we transition.
And when you're talking about like hiking up prices, there are a lot of things that come into the hiking of prices of oil, including like potential.
I just know that the night Biden got in office, the prices went up.
Okay,
that much I know, and I'm sure everybody who's listening knows as well.
Again,
except the ideologues. People are ideological; they won't acknowledge it.
COVID, people weren't driving during COVID. People started driving.
Well, I was, and I tell you what, I was paying for gas. Okay,
right. I was trying to cape for Trump, and he's crazy, and you kind of acknowledge that. And so
you know, again,
like it wasn't a man and his policies. Right?
Again, it's policies. Okay, it doesn't matter whether it's Trump or it doesn't matter whether it's Trump or not. The Republicans have different policies concerning energy. So it doesn't matter whether Trump is the standard bearer. You see with the Democrats, none of these candidates are central. You see how quickly the Democrats shifted. It doesn't matter whether it's Biden or Kamala Harris. It's the policies and the platform and the plank that the party stands for. That's what it's all about.
I'm just curious, right? I know we're reaching the end of our time, and we have our next guest on, but I'm just curious about one thing, right? Because are there specific policies like you liked Trump's Biden? You like Trump?
I just named three. No. I said I'm paying more for. I'm paying more for gas. I'm paying more for groceries. We have illegal immigrants flooding our streets.
So you like
that's three right there.
So you liked him, like the way that he had the border, what he did.
Yes, remain in Mexico. Absolutely.
And the levels of separating people from their kids. And
if you come into a country, you come to a country without going through the standard immigration policy that others go through. First of all, every administration, those cages were Obama's cages.
No, I'm just saying.
They called him the separator. They called him the separator in chief. So that's the other thing Democrats do. Always playing on heartstrings, separating. Obama built the cages. They called him the separator in chief.
Because the cruelty was the point. That was
It's not cruelty. It's just that you have. If you go into Mexico with your children tonight, if you violate the law, then you might be subject to have some separation.
Your kids, okay, I got it.
Well, you can't put children in an adult prison. If you go over to the mall with your children, and Boost clothes, you're going to be separated. You get caught.
Yeah, okay, got it. No, I mean
that's just common sense.
Where the difference?
That's just common sense,
right? And climate change isn't real.
And to show that you're not dealing with reality, those were Obama's cages. They called him the separator in chief.
No, they
actually deal with that. You don't want to deal with that.
Deported more people than anyone else.
You don't want to deal with that.
I actually just answered it, right?
You don't want to deal with that.
He was the deporter in chief.
They called him the separator. They called him the separator in chief, and those were his cages.
I know that.
They showed them all through the Trump administration. They had been Obama's cages. Let's deal with facts and reality.
The facts are like. They push policies to new levels.
I guarantee you, we didn't have buses coming into New York City and Newark, New Jersey, and we didn't have millions of undocumented immigrants coming into this country until the night Biden came in office because of policy decisions that he made.
It was a bipartisan bill,
and that's why blacks in Chicago. You have millions of people. Biden had millions of people streaming into this country, and during the election,
like what Trump did, like when it was you can't have that deal.
First of all, the deal was not sufficient. Okay.
Oh, but he was trashing it.
Secondly,
The border is such a big problem.
secondly,
Let's
you
not
have
do anything
millions of
to the
people
election.
coming. You
That's
have
okay.
millions
That's
of
your
people.
man. That's your man.
All right, we can't talk at the same time. We can sing at the same
Okay.
time.
All
You
right,
have
well,
millions of people coming into the country, and during the election, Biden decides to try to do something, which he could have done with executive action. He
No,
could
it
have
was
done that
actually
with executive
legislation.
action.
It was actually bipartisan.
No, he could have done that with.
That was a
He
lot
he
more.
could have done
But
that
no.
with executive action. Okay.
But we got to go until next month, right? I know that we started a little late, right? But let's continue, right? Let's continue to talk. But you know,
hey, we can talk every day, but believe
enough.
me, when you talk to me, I'm talking facts, and I'm
Okay.
not dealing in emotion, and I'm not doctrinaire. And that sister said it right. This whole thing about books, it's about stopping radicals. It's not about stopping Black history. And you all let that become conflated.
Well, I
Radical
mean, like,
ideology with Black history, which is two
but
different things. Let the
I think
radicals
climate
fight.
change is
Let the
radical.
radicals fight to get their stuff in the schools.
Climate change.
You conflated that, and that's why Black
Climate
history
change is
suffered.
radical, right? I got
She
it.
was right. She was right.
Yeah.
People
All
who have unconditional values. She was right. She was very honest.
Backing bad. Got
She
it.
was very honest.
All right. All right. Talk to you later.
All right.
All right. Peace.
Okay. Sorry about that. All right. Okay.
All right, so we reached another hour segment, right? Like we always have them on. We always we value everybody's opinion, and we value that, and we think that is important to have that to see where it is, because Trump held a rally in the Bronx, and he had a lot of Black people supporting him, right? Like Blacks and Latinos came out in force in the Bronx a few months ago. So we have all these opinions on because we need to see where it comes from, what is there, let's have some of this conversation. So, but we are now on a different segment of our show. And wait, are all four of you in the same segment, or did I just mess up just now? Zay,
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
so
Mathew and his friends.
I introduce this segment, and I'm going to keep everybody who's in this segment together. So
Naomi's having trouble getting on. She was trying to get in here.
All right, Naomi
Stevens? Yeah.
All right, so it's Naomi Stevens.
There you go.
And who else? Who else is in the segment? Is Mathew Solomon in the segment as well?
Yep.
Come on, school teacher. You can handle 30 in the class.
Keyanna Jones more in the segment.
No, I think we need to take like a breath for a second, and I need to hug a whale.
Nah, we need to just send him back because I'm sorry. I don't know.
We gotta,
these people.
we gotta meditate.
I don't know.
We gotta do some breathing exercises.
Ooh, I love that about that. I love that about your generation. Come on, baby.
Fair enough, but as I said before, we always want to, it is important, I think, to have everybody's opinion on who represents like a lot of people in our community, and he represents a lot of people in the community, right? And so I think it's important to know who's out there, right? Like he has a very large following. He has his own show. He has been an activist for many years. He has
he's the pastor of somebody's church.
He's a right. So that like
he used to be the hip hop minister.
Right. He's
formerly Conrad Muhammad.
Right. He is a well-respected activist minister, educated, lives in New York, lives in the community, has a large community following. Like I'm just saying, right? Like it's important to recognize who's out there. Like when Trump went to the Bronx, there were a whole lot of people out there, and I didn't know where they came from, but they were there, right? So we always do that. But yes, needed to take a little bit of a breath. Be like, climate change, it's real. We got it. And
Keyanna froze up. She got to come back in, but she was making the face of the century.
I understand.
As she does this, let me try and bring this crew in. This is a crew that I'm going to have some fun with tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be the 61st community-based screening of the film Reimagining Safety. And of course, Mathew Solomon has been here before when we showed the film in Montclair. We had you on for the Montclair showing some time ago, Mathew, right? and we've been trying to figure out how to get this in public space up here in Newark. We've been all over New Jersey. I've sat in like 4 or 5 of the screenings we've done, Princeton and Trenton, and also need to get you. We need to talk about Patterson. I'd love to have you in Patterson, right? But great film, shown in a great space, right? And I'm looking forward to these daughters telling us about the space that is Express Newark. It's a space that I would love. We want to have a conversation, after tomorrow about some other things that I think we would love, that Express Newark would love, that I've been trying to figure out how to do for a minute too. That's film centered, in terms of some ideas for some film centers. So let's look forward to that.
All right, so let's introduce this segment.
Right now. So tomorrow, 12 o'clock, Express Newark. Now this is a festival, a mini festival that's built up around this film. So I'm gonna let Maya and Naomi talk about that, right? But Mathew, just for everybody's benefit, just give everybody a quick summary of just what this film is, why you did it in the way that you're doing it, and how it's become an important conversational tool for the community.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. And it's great to be back on. The short version is I grew up in LA. I've been in film and entertainment most of my life. I also work in conflict resolution. And before the pandemic started, I was traveling, facilitating conflict resolution services and teaching. And then when the pandemic started and we couldn't go anywhere, I decided to go back to school. And I was looking for a master's program that would put me in a position where I, as a white male, could use my privilege and access to help support social change, because I know I can get into certain spaces and then pass the mic and that sort of thing. And so in my coursework, and this was after the murder of George Floyd, I was applying all of the master's in public administration coursework to the issues with policing and incarceration, and got really interested in what are the alternatives. And so when it came time to do my final thesis, one of my academic advisors was like, we know you know how to write a paper, but we know you're a filmmaker. Why don't you do something creative and do a documentary or something? And I laughed because I'm like, that's a lot of work. But she said, do it anyway. And so because it was academic and because I know the importance of representing a lot of different viewpoints, I didn't want to just interview activists. I wanted to have, government officials. There's a former LAPD detective who's in the film. There's mental health professionals, people who work, with housing and that sort of thing. And there's Gina Viola ran for mayor of Los Angeles on an abolitionist platform. And Hawk Newsom from Black Lives Matter New York and Black Opportunities is in the film. So I had all these different perspectives so that they could be citable, reputable, and it'd be really hard to poke holes in what people were saying. And so, I finished the film, showed it to some people, and some folks were like, more people need to see this. This is a really great educational tool. And so I kind of followed what the movie 13th did, because I knew that they did community screenings. And so I just started reaching out to people in different cities, and then it just kind of picked up from there. And tomorrow will be our 61st. I've been all over the country, met like over 80 organizations that are doing, community work, violence prevention work, mental health services, like housing, all of that. And so it's really been incredible in the last year and a half.
And for everybody's benefit, particularly any new listeners that we have, Newark has been in the forefront of community-based violence intervention work. I should tell you that tomorrow the mayor has what we call a periodic men's breakfast. So a lot of the young men that do this work are going to be with their mayor, right? And they're not likely, they're going to get full on fellowship, feeding the people, and what they got to do to, in this particular climate. So if they come to us, they're going to come full. They'll come late. But if they don't come, this where we're going to be. It's a big thing that he does periodically, and he's been very visionary in a very important way in terms of that work. But that notwithstanding, and this is a great segue for Naomi and Maya is that Express Newark has its own legs, right? It's its own identity, has its own energy, has its own following, and I'm looking forward to who comes, right? That may not be in the spaces that you and I just talked about, Matt, but or just this is happening in Express Newark and it looks like pretty dope. I might want to check this out. So we can lift some fresh eyes with this conversation and with this film. So Naomi, Maya, tell us what else is going to happen around the film tomorrow, and remind folks who ain't been to Express Newark what it is and why it has become so important in our community.
I don't know who wants to meet first. Talk
Y'all got
first.
to come off mute. That's radio. You got to talk.
Hi, everyone. My name is Naomi Stevens. It's so great to be here and in this space. And I'm so excited for tomorrow. So the idea for this event actually came from a conversation sitting in the middle of Military Park with Mathew earlier this year. And for me and my platform, I'm representing Zion Park, New Jersey, and we're all about creativity and redefining certain narratives that are placed on the city of Newark. So a lot of the work that we do is social justice meets like cultural things like art, music. And together, my mission is to get enough artists and creatives in the same space to actually like manifest a better society and a society that we want, and use different means of arts and entertainment to bring that to life. And when we were sitting there talking about reimagining safety, I was like, this is the perfect opportunity for us to get a whole bunch of like-minded individuals into one spot and collectively manifest what a better society looks like, a safer society. And then Maya, she came in as like this powerhouse. And it was kind of like the dynamic duo. And I'm so grateful that we actually made it to this present time. Express Newark is a wonderful art and cultural hub downtown Newark on Halsey Street. Maya could probably get a little bit more into the more technical language behind what they do. But it's an extension of Rutgers University. And honestly, the space is dope. And that was the first spot that I had thought of when I wanted to do something to enhance, when we wanted to do something to enhance the film and bring it to Newark, to do it in this multi-medium creative space. And all of the pieces just fell into place. And like I said earlier, I'm just super grateful that we're actually now talking about it happening tomorrow. It's going to be a beautiful time, definitely a very healing time. And then I was actually in reflection, I was saying as well, like, I mean, black and brown people are murdered by the police all the time, unfortunately. But it would just so happen that we're doing this at the same time that awareness is being brought to the murder of Sonia Massey. And that just shows how aligned our intentions are. I always say, like, community work never stops. So we have to continue doing these programming so we can be more proactive opposed to reactionary. So the fact that Mathew has been touring with this film and bringing this, this awareness months and months and months before the incident of our fallen sister. So it's even at the perfect time for us to just pay homage to her life and to her legacy, and to the fight, the never-ending struggle. Well, it is ending. I won't say never-ending. It's just the continuous struggle. But yeah, all good things. I'll pass it over to Maya.
Yeah, thank you.
Actually, I want you to know, though, Maya, before you jump in, I want you to know that we shut down Broad Market for Sonia Massey last week.
Oh yes, I did see.
Yeah.
36 cities. It's a
Wow.
national day of mourning around that, and I've been in front of a lot of this. Y'all see the mall. When I open up the mall, I'll break a lot of this stuff down in terms of what we do in this town on that particular front. And I love the name of your group. Mirosta name is Zion X.
Okay. Oh wow. Yeah.
Hey, Naomi, that's that divine timing you always talk. I'm not a very religious person, but this event has a lot of divine timing with it.
Yeah. So go ahead, Maya. Come on in.
Yeah, so my name is Maya. I do a lot of things. I work with the Chamber of Commerce here in the city, so I work very closely with the business community. But probably even more relevant to this conversation, I work with nonprofit organizations. Most currently, I'm working with House of Mary in New Jersey, which is partnered right now with the 13th Avenue School in the West Ward, running an amazing Freedom School program. And I also provide fundraising support to a national organization, Black Men Build, who is actually going to be in the building tomorrow. So I'm super excited to have them there. The New York team is going to be there, as well as the national organizer that is building out some activity in Jersey and Camden. And hopefully we can get some Black Men Build activity in Newark as well. But this has been incredible to be a part of. It's been in the making since, I think, March. It's been in the making since March. And, you know, to the point Naomi was making just with the timing of everything. The date is coming up after what unfortunately occurred with Sonia Massey, and it's also coming up on the 10th anniversary of Mike Brown. And so
that's today. Today is the 10th anniversary.
So, and we know that Mike Brown was a catalyst for a lot of activity in this country from a social justice perspective, a lot of awakening in this country from a social justice perspective. And I think when we settled when we settled on this date, it was literally like, hey, Matt, when might you be in the Newark area? Like, what would be the most cost-effective time to bring you here? And it was like, I think between this date and next weekend, and the fact that we landed on this particular date, you know, again, Naomi is constantly talking about divine timing. So I would say there's definitely some divine timing with this. Just to give a quick just shout out to the folks at Express Newark. They are an incredible team. Shout out to Yvonne, Shirley, and all the folks in the Community Media Center. As Naomi said, Express Newark is part of Rutgers University Newark. They have part of their art department in Express Newark. They have part of their film program in Express Newark. It is a space that is in the Hain & Co building, which locally we all know is the Whole Foods building. But if you're old school, you know, my parents born and raised in Newark. So for me, that's the Hain & Co building. So it's up on the second floor. And it's an incredible space. The Community Media Center is a space where folks can come together and do programming like this. So they host a lot of art events, a lot of film and social justice and music events. And so we're really excited to be working with that team in very close partnership on this program. And our other local community partner is Matt Williams, the founder of I'm So Newark. And so I know a lot of people know Matt. He's the guy that's always going live. You know Matt. So Matt's always going live in the park with the deer, and he does the food videos. He also produces the Short Film Festival in Newark, formerly called the Newark Short Film Awards. And that's another program here in the city that I work really closely on. So we have a really great team. We have some community orgs coming out tabling. We lost one or two because of the weather, but it's still going to be good.
Yeah, some more context. This is Black August.
Yes, it is Black August. Yep.
Black August.
And since you mentioned that, I know we haven't connected, but that's one of the things we want you to talk about.
Let the old head help you with that, right?
Absolutely.
You know, Black August built on, you know, the stiffest in our Black radical tradition of resistance, including our arms traditions, right? And built to support our political prisoners. Today just happens to be not just Michael Brown's anniversary, the 10th anniversary. It's also, and y'all were probably babies when this happened. We had a horrible case in Brooklyn on August 9th, 1997. Jonathan, do you remember Abner Louima?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Horrible, right? And he survived it, but what happened to that young man who was breaking up a fight, taken into custody, beaten almost to death, and violently sodomized, had to have about 12 surgeries to save his life and literally to put his digestive tract back together. Absolutely horrible. That's when we started taking the bridge in Brooklyn.
It was so bad. It was so bad that the police officer back then was actually convicted.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was.
Which rarely happens.
Right. That's how bad it was.
We got that one.
But I mean,
Oh yeah. So this is, you know, this is an intense time, an intense moment. You know, we got all police being weaponized to put down legitimate dissent around Palestinian solidarity, right? I have 3 comrades who may wind up going to prison, who go on trial in September. The Uhuru Three. We paid the New York Times a visit because they had, you know, commercial media, and this is community-based media where we're in right now, this particular platform, but commercial media has just whited that out. That story, you would know it exists. But elders who are old enough to be your grandparents are being targeted for their ideological orientation and training a generation your age that's not afraid to run for office and try and take some elected spaces in a community-based way, right? So this is an intense moment, and and the engagement of your generation is going to be they help define the moment. So I wanted, just to big picture this in the language of the Black Panther Party. I just wanted to lift that up. Now, festival. We're gonna show the film and talk, but what do festival mean? What else y'all gonna do?
Yes, so we're gonna have the film, we're gonna have a panel discussion, we're gonna have some community tables, we're gonna have a performance by Arrow the Symbol, so a local artist that's really hot right now. And then we're also gonna have an art exhibit. So we have some artists who produce work that's in the social justice space that's
name the artist
outlined in the film. Naomi can name the artist because I actually did not coordinate the visual artist.
Okay, for the artist tomorrow, we have a Newark local and a Newark fave, Ayana Kareem. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her work.
Well, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and then also have we have Cicely. She's also joining us tomorrow, and Deja Monet from Black the Brand. They'll be all exhibiting. So we have some really powerful art tomorrow that we're going to showcase.
I want you daughters to appreciate that. And during the prime time of the mayor's father, Newark was an epicenter for both Black Power and the Black Arts Movement.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And folks folks might give Amiri credit for his literary contributions, but he was every bit one of the most gifted. Folks were looking at what Black Power looks like in the world right at this town. And so when we see this reemergence of the arts in spaces like Express Newark, it's on the legs and on the shoulders of that tradition.
I think you're going in and out. And I think you were talking about you were going to be talking about the long tradition of Newark of arts and artists and movements based around art and freedom.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. And I think for us too, so, Naomi and I are born and raised Newark in the Newark area, still live in Newark in the Newark area. And I think for us, you grow up with that legacy. You grow up knowing that Newark is a very Black city. It is a hotbed for artistic expression. And it is also the intersection of arts and activism. And so for us, kind of bringing all these different pieces together, and particularly with film is a medium. So my background is actually in TV production. I went to Montclair State University and I studied broadcasting and anthropology. And for me, film and television is really, those are the mediums that you can bring people to the table to learn about something that they would not otherwise learn about on their own. So folks will watch a film when they won't read a book, when they won't read a news article, when they won't listen to a radio kind of news piece. They'll watch a film. Really quick too, just to bring it back to Black August. And this was one of the earlier conversations we had about the importance and symbolism behind this happening in this month. So in Black August, the outline of it is study, fast, train, fight. And so this is the study.
Right.
Bringing people together to learn something that they may not already be aware of, or to learn more about. I know a little something. I think you're way smarter than me, but I know a little something. So this is the study, and study, fast, train, fight. And you have a lot of really amazing organizations right now doing month-long programs for Black August. So there's just a small little piece of that happening in Newark.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's awesome. That's awesome. Really good, jump in, Jonathan. I'm sorry.
I know we're almost out of time, but one thing I do want to ask is, would for Naomi and Maya, Newark natives, interested in activism, would you be interested in joining us for the 8 o'clock hour? Because we're going to be talking just pure politics, week in politics, your opinions about what's going on. Very similar to the last segment, except for probably a different outcome, right?
More like the first segment.
Different tenor, right?
We never got Reverend.
Yeah, we want to give Reverend Jones some space because she's got some powerful Powerful
Yeah, that's what
testimony.
you trying to get in.
Now,
Come on, Keyanna,
and
get in
Bring
Reverend
our
there.
sister
Jones
back.
is on for the 7:30 hour, or
She's
oh,
having,
I was
she's having.
in at 7, but when we were talking about that, oh wait, first of all, I need to probably know the cursing protocol. Like, can I say curse words on here?
You
But
ain't
secondly,
hey, we're supposed to be a family kind of program.
secondly, when you had that Uncle Tom ass wannabe hip hop bishop on here, first of all, I recognized the name right off the bat, and I was like, I know Conrad Tillard. I know this name. I know this name. He looks vastly different from the way he looked when I was a teenager and, in my early 20s. And apparently his politic has changed drastically as well. And if he pastors a church, I think he needs to be very, very concerned about his own soul salvation. Because as watchmen, if you know that somebody is coming to hurt your people and you don't ring the alarm, the blood is required at your hands when your people perish. It's a lot of people gonna perish falling behind that Uncle Tom ass Negro. It's no way in the world. Anybody needs to give him a platform, but y'all do what y'all do, because I'm not here to run your show. I got to do what I do. And I can only police me, but I'm really, really happy to be here and to see you again, Baba Zaid, because you might not remember, but I first encountered you on the streets of Roselle, New Jersey, around 2010, when there was a group of young people that got shot on Walnut Street.
Oh my
and it
God,
was
that's
you,
right.
Street Doctor, Bashir
Right.
Akinyele,
That's right.
and
All the OGs.
our good brother Salam Ishmael. I had a baby on my hip at the time, and that child is now 17 years old. But it was all those years ago that I first encountered you, learned about the People's Organization for Progress, and at that time I was deep into community organizing in Roselle. So it's like we go back, we do go back. But I've been doing the work, since then, and even before then, right? Lots and lots of work. And I'm really glad to be here with y'all, and so excited for tomorrow's Reimagining Safety Festival, for the film screening, for the panel.
So yeah, we're gonna light the panel up with you, baby. No doubt about it.
Absolutely.
But Keyanna, now are you from Atlanta or Roselle, or you've been back and forth?
I am from Atlanta, Georgia, born and raised in East Atlanta, right around the neighborhood where they're trying to build Cop City. That's where I was born and raised. Right. Moved to Jersey when I was 20 years old, and I stayed in Jersey for 20 years. Most of that time being in Roselle, where I worked on quite a few political campaigns, because I was deep in the New Jersey Democrats back then, no radicalization at the time, but also worked for the Borough of Roselle municipal government for many years in the clerk's office, even worked as the acting deputy, and I was elected to the Roselle Board of Education in 2017. They know me in those streets, in the Union County streets.
Did you run for the board with Johnny Davis?
I did. It was me, Johnny, and Archange.
Me and Johnny go back to the first grade.
Oh, wow. When I tell you, the connections are deep, the connections are strong. I was around when Mayor Baraka's father was alive, God rest his soul. Definitely had the honor to be in his presence, and that was something that I hold dear to me. But Jersey definitely gave me the right to be who I am, because Jersey raised me when it comes to activism, community organizing, and even political organizing, because I did a lot of it back in the day. But as I became radicalized, that organizing looked very, very different, and it looks different today. When that sucker was talking about radicals, you damn right we radical. And if it wasn't for somebody radical, your black ass would still be drinking out a separate fountain, although that wasn't necessarily the worst thing. However, you wouldn't have had the opportunities you had because nobody would have been platforming you at all. But it's because of radicals that you can do what you do. It's because of radicals that they ain't put your ass out the church now, because there is a lane for that type of buffoonery. But it's because of radicals who made that type of stuff possible, right?
That's right.
God bless him.
That's right. That is so right. Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Yes, Lord, I'm looking forward.
I'm moderating the panel. Y'all got me.
Absolutely.
Y'all gonna have to get a a shotgun and a big, Apollo cane. The full
Look, it's Black August. It is all apropos.
oh hell,
Mhm.
oh
So
hell.
tomorrow might be the study and the fight.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. And I've been waiting. Like I got a lot of pent up energy right now. I really do. I
So
really
we're
do.
so excited to have you. We're so
Keyanna, though,
excited
real
you're
quick.
showing up for this.
And
Hmm?
I definitely want. Well, actually, if you could stay on for
Hmm.
this when we're talking about politics and stuff, because I got a lot of questions about Georgia. I'm actually there
Oh,
right now.
absolutely.
He's in Atlanta
Absolutely.
right now. He's with his parents.
Yep. So I'm here right now. I'm based in New Jersey, but I'm here in Atlanta a lot. And I got a lot of questions about the state and Stacey Abrams and a lot of stuff that I want to ask you later. I'd love to have your opinion on all of it because it just
I'm
seems
here for it. I
this
am
is
here for it.
this is a place.
The
Now,
next segment is a police brutality segment. So now, and I will talk about that tomorrow also, right? Because the 27th of August is the 1 year anniversary of the police killing of Andrew Washington. And I've been working with his family. I have a statewide coalition against police brutality. It's one of my responsibilities up here, up south in the Soprano State. I'll get into that landscape to help set up the film. We got a ton of comrades have been trying to pull me down. So it's a whole lot of Jersey.
Oh, there is. There
I got
is.
comrades from around the country. I have ties to the Black Panther Party and the New African Independence Movement. We got a whole lot of New African comrades down there. When you coming? When you coming? When you coming? When you coming?
But actually, isn't that also very similar to this segment in that reimagining policing? And I think both of the people who were murdered that you talked about there were mental health issues, right?
That's
Like,
right.
as in, they needed to be somebody who approached them in a humane level. This is really, I had a situation where one of my friends who came to Newark to visit was I didn't know, but she had a mental break attack, right? And had to negotiate with police officers who were armed. And it was one of those things where it's like her sister talking to her sister over the phone, gave me words to use for police officers where they would have to send somebody, right? They were like, it's a mental health crisis, and use those words. So they would send people that were mental health professionals. The two police officers were not, initially, they were not mean to, like they were doing things, trying to get close, trying to do things almost to provoke. And there were times I had to put myself between the police and her in a real tense negotiation because they were short cops. I'm 6'2". She was tall. This is not this is not a situation that ends well usually for me or her. And it was one of those times where it's like you say the wrong thing, and like I was like, no, they're not going to beat her up in front of me. My body's going to be between them, but I know this can be
escalate.
This might be it, right? So words are important, and this is tense. And even when there were the things in place, it was like, why? I literally had to put my body between them. I'm like, no, don't go closer to her because that'll be provoking. Like counsel them to push back because and it doesn't help that she did take a big thing of water and spit all over the cops. She spit water all like Dizzy Gillespie style water and all over the police officers. So that made negotiations a little bit more tense, a little bit more tense.
Why you ain't tell me about this before?
Oh man, I blocked it out. It was a moment. But when this happened, this was not this. I'd like to think that this was. It reminded me. It was very similar to the stuff that you were talking about because we talk a lot on the show a lot about mental health crises and police, and how police murder like Black people in disproportionate numbers who are just mentally ill. They're having a break. They need help, right? These situations where they can be battered and abused, and
Killed.
this reimagining safety is all about, right? Like sounds like because police didn't make me feel safe in that I wasn't safe, right? I wasn't the person who was having the mental health breakdown. They were not a danger to me. They were a danger to themselves, right? Like they might have hurt my pride a little bit by getting some of the spit on me, right? But they were not. My life was not going to be snuffed out by going through a mental health break. My life reasonably could have been snuffed out by the people I was between, because it was like it was the way they took the challenge, right? Because it was like, I know you want to do something really, really rough right now because she spit all over you, but you're gonna have to go through me for it, and you might want to. You'll win. You got guns. I don't. You'll win. But hopefully you don't want to do the paperwork. Hopefully you just want to go home tonight and chill and watch some TV and talk about it, because it's going to be bad for me, worse for me, but at least you're going to have to fill out some paperwork and think some thoughts, right? So hopefully you want to go home and watch TV. We shouldn't have to do that, right? We had a protocol in place. I made the protocol, mental health crisis. They should have stayed back and waited, because the situation was under control. They shouldn't have started provoking. I shouldn't have had to use de-escalation skills. Shouldn't have had to happen. Right? Shouldn't have had to happen.
That's right.
If I was presenting differently, right? Like if I was presenting differently, might have been a different outcome. If I was not a trained communicator, might have been a different outcome. If I was not trained to read people, might have been a different outcome, right? That shouldn't be. So when you're talking about reimagining safety, that it is, and especially dealing with mental health crises and mental health illness, I can't overstate how near and dear that is to me, and how needed it is, because I could see why the numbers are the numbers, what the numbers are.
Yeah. And can I just say, so there's like kind of two layers to that situation. It's the fact that, like you said, under a different set of circumstances, if you didn't know the words to say, if you were behaving any differently, if you were presenting any differently, if you spoke any differently, if you came off to, if there was any additional if to that scenario, things could have gone very left. And like most people don't know to say this is explicitly say this is a mental health. Like I just learned something. Like I would not know necessarily in the heat of a moment trying to help someone I love that those are the three specific words I need to say to hopefully keep this from going left. But then so there's the part of it where there has to be a change within like the actual law enforcement and the people who are responding in the culture and the training. But then there's also the layer of it for us as everyday, so not necessarily us here, but the people as everyday people. You would tell some people that story and they would say, well, she should have complied. Well, she should not have spit on him. Well, she should not like just kind of find a way, because we're so conditioned like that law enforcement is always right. And we have to do everything down to the letter. And if we don't, it's our fault. And if you're having a crisis, like it's not your fault, like under any scenario. And what you're saying too even sounds similar to some of, unfortunately, what was going on with Sonia Macy. They talk about how she came at him with a pot of water, and it's like, all right, bro, like let's just say she out-greened you. Like it's hot water, like you're gonna have a burn, it's not gonna kill you. Like I'm not like saying that's not threatening to him, but you shoot somebody,
he threatened her first.
Right.
I will shoot you in your face.
Right, but we all know that some people would still try to twist it like, well, then she shouldn't have done anything, so there's like a whole just like mindset shift that has to happen about our relation to law enforcement.
There's no gaslighter like the United States of America and they racist white folks.
And look, there is a systemic lack of mental health infrastructure, right? This is systemic and it's systematic. It's being done on purpose. When you look at who mental health challenges affect, how they affect them, and the circumstances surrounding it, and then the outcomes because of it, right? Most of the people who are houseless on the streets are people who suffer with mental health challenges. When we talk about how things are done, there are places like DeKalb County, Georgia, where I live currently, where even if you call 911 and say you need an ambulance for a mental health crisis, they will send cops first, and an ambulance will not come unless the cops say that an ambulance should come. I know this because I experienced it myself firsthand with the situation where I dialed 911 and said I need an ambulance. And I made it clear that the person I was with was having a mental health break, that she had mental health challenges, and that she was in the middle of a mental health crisis. Cops came to my house first, and cops told me explicitly that they determine whether an ambulance will be sent or not. And when you look at a scenario like that, how many other places are there where cops have to come first and they determine whether you get medical treatment or not? And then that's how we have situations like we did with Sister Sonia Massey, where that person murdered her and refused medical treatment. We had a case like that in Atlanta, in Decatur, actually. Mathew Zadok Williams was having a mental health crisis, ran into his own home. Cops kicked in his door and murdered him as he crouched down behind an ottoman. No weapon, no nothing. But when EMS showed up, the police officer said to EMS, no, only person shot is him. So they refused medical treatment. We see too many incidences like this in this country. It is really insidious the way that healthcare has devolved and the way mental health care infrastructure is virtually non-existent in many states in this country. But we know that it's done systematically to continue to disenfranchise Black people and other minorities. So when you think about it, these things are not happening by chance. They are happening because this is the way the system was set up. This is the way they want it to be. And it's one more way that they can justify killing us.
And listen, you know, one of the things that was supposed to come out of what happened, and I'm trying to get Andrew Washington's on, is that we had a string of cases like that just within the last few years, right? Just a back and one right behind each other, right? But with Najee Seabrooks, we have a bill called the Seabrooks-Washington bill that's supposed to enact community-led emergency response teams for situations like this, right? And we're fighting now for it to be implemented, right? Najee was a community-based violence interventionist who had some training in how to handle these situations. And when he was confronted, even in the middle of his crisis, he said, y'all not saying the right things, you know? And his people from the group is called the Patterson Healing Collective were literally on the scene, and Najee in real time with the police present on his phone, talking to his team and the police on the ground, you know, outside. All I need to do is hear your voices and see your faces, and I'll come out. And they would not allow it, and wound up going in because they were worried about this thing taking too long, and kill the young man, right? So I mean, we're in the thick of some real effort to try and make a turn in some of this sick culture. You know, Keyanna, I'm gonna say, in the United States, mental health hasn't devolved; it has never evolved. Mental health treatment has never been the forte of this country, right?
It's never been the forte for the poor. I mean, for the poor or the working class, right? If you are wealthy, you get incredible mental health treatment.
The least of these,
right?
There's a possibility of that, to be sure. But it's oh man, we can go on this all day. Now, is Tony Washington in the backstage yet?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Yes, sir. That's Drew Washington's aunt. She was supposed to come on and let me just give a quick infomercial for her and their family. August 27th is the first year anniversary of his killing. They are putting together a short film to just celebrate her nephew's humanity, right? You know, and when these things happen, 9 out of 10, there's no narrative about who the human being was that got killed. You know, it was just that, you know, this happened and it kind of had to go this way. You know, and it's very dismissive in how those stories are treated. But Andrew Washington, in spite of his mental health history, was a very full-fledged human being who had a very full-fledged personality, who was very well known and very loved in his neighborhood. Everybody knew Andrew, his, you know, his likes, his dislikes, his, you know, his fun stuff and his challenges, and was accepted as a human being in his community, and that should not have happened to him. Period. Right? So you know, that's the context in you know, the conversation of reimagining. We got a lot to reimagine, but that's some of the stuff that is right in our face at a very critical time, at a critical crossroads in this country's history. Keyanna, give us the latest though on where we are with Cop City in Atlanta.
Well, where we are right now is that as far as physical construction of the facility, they have moved forward with physical construction. And what I want people to understand about the issue in Atlanta is that everything about this project from the very beginning has been done illegally and improperly. You have zoning ordinances that have been ignored. You had an appeal in a lawsuit where there was a stop work order that was issued that was ignored. You know, the City of Atlanta Police Department and the Atlanta Police Foundation have showed us exactly what law enforcement is, what police foundations represent, and how they are more than above the law. But right now, as far as the legality of things with Cop City and those who are being directly affected by domestic terrorism and RICO charges, we have a number of motions that have been filed in the past 2 months regarding the ineffectiveness of the prosecutor's office. The attorney general, quite frankly, leaked a lot of attorney-client privileged information, did not have a filter team when it came down to sifting through electronics that belonged to the RICO defendants. We had the AG's office withholding discovery. The AG's office refused to allow defense attorneys and defendants to visit the so-called site of their so-called crimes. And one of the things that has come out that has been echoed by so many defense attorneys is that the locations where most of the defendants were arrested for trespassing is a public park. So they are not guilty of trespassing. Most of that can be thrown out because we have a lot of lies in the police narrative. And this is where we get to the travesty of police reporting and the fact that they never have to own up to the lies. They never go back and correct the narrative, but this will hang over people's heads for some time. But what we see, especially with March 5th, 2023, which was a huge arrest day, there was a music festival and family day that happened. This is when a lot of people got charged with domestic terrorism. What the police department doesn't want people to know is that as they stopped people to detain them, they were checking their IDs. And if your ID had a Georgia address, you were let go. But if your ID had an out-of-state address, then you were detained. That's how they ended up arresting a legal observer who was there and had no business being arrested at all. But then you see the images of these officers pointing their rifles into a bouncy house. You have them holding mothers and babies at gunpoint against a sound stage. Like, the atrocities that have been committed are really, really ridiculous. And people don't even know the real magnitude of what's been going on. But where we are in organizing is that we have not stopped. Of course, we did the referendum petition. It has been 1 year since we have submitted 116,000 signatures for people asking for this to be put to a question on a ballot for November. Also, it has been a year where myself and 3 of my neighbors in DeKalb County filed a lawsuit against Mayor Andre Dickens and the City of Atlanta and the City of Atlanta Police Department the City of Atlanta City Council their legal department for trying to keep people from collecting petition signatures. We had to get a judge to say, hey, doesn't matter who collects these signatures as long as those who sign are eligible to sign, and they get an additional 60 days to collect these signatures. Mayor Andre Dickens has been doing everything he can to thwart direct democracy, but we continue to fight. We continue to show up.
I have a question, because you're saying this, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, this is some white supremacist stuff that's going on.
These are black folks in office.
But this is
they in blackface.
This is
they in blackface, honey.
This is black. Doesn't the land have a black
folks in the Democratic Party?
Break it
down. Look,
the way you're talking about the police state and cop city and giving all this power to police that's repressive, you're talking about repressive state power. You are the right to protest being denied, the way of you are similar to the way that COINTELPRO used tactics just to arrest people, to inconvenience them, to deter them from coming back, even if you
absolutely
right. You know the charges are trumped up, but they gotta hire. They gotta do their work. It's going to be inconvenient. They're going to have what?
That's exactly what's at play here. So what you see in the city of Atlanta is that it is the blackest city in the state of Georgia, but it's also the city that has the highest wealth gap in this country. These entertainers want to say stuff to you like Atlanta is Wakanda. That's a lie. Atlanta's the land of make-believe, because most of the stuff in Atlanta is made up. The black people in Atlanta are made up. They don't care anything about black people. They don't care about growing power in community. All they care about is a title and a position, and they show it time and time again. They are a part of the Atlanta way. This secret relationship and agreement between those black people who were allowed to be in positions of authority with the white supremacist establishment that said that you can have this position. I will even give your children and those who you favor a position and a title, but you got to keep them other suckers over there in check. Like, we don't want them Negroes over here. So you keep them over there. We'll do us over here, and we'll let you enjoy this right here. When you talk about people like Andrea Boone, whose father was a civil rights leader in the city of Atlanta, that don't mean nothing. That's a name. When you're talking about Michael Julian Bond, well, his father, the apple don't fall far from the tree. I'm going to say that right there. But that's a name. You know, you're talking about people who have these names and this namesake. Even the former mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, like, her father was in some R&B group, whatever. She shows it. No substance. It's a black face who makes things palatable for the black people and kisses enough white ass to be where they need to be, but not doing any good for the black people. That's exactly what's happening in Atlanta. When we talk about the police in Atlanta, they're out of control. They just murdered a 63-year-old deacon last year for not signing a parking ticket. Instances of police murder in Atlanta have gone up year over year since 2020. As a matter of fact, Cop City was proposed after 2020.
That's right. With the express intent of training the police to be able to put down the protest
movement. What does this look like? Schools of the Americas. Like, we've seen this before. Right. History repeats itself. We in the 60s all over again. And I think what people don't understand, because they think that Kamala finna save them, or they think that Trump finna save them. They think that anybody in some political parties finna save them. The only people who will save you are yourselves. We keep each other safe. We are the ones who will save us. And it's gonna take that same type of radical black organizing that it did in the 60s in order for us to get through this. People are so deluded about where they think we're gonna go and how they think we're gonna get there. People got another thing coming. When I tell you that they think that voting is the way and the election is going to do this and the election is going to do that, what election has ever significantly changed the material conditions of black people in the United States? What election? I ain't seen it. When y'all find out, let me know.
And we're getting a cop city here in Newark, so.
Well, there are 69 cop cities built or being built in the United States, all across the U.S.
Yep. And this is the model.
Tony, I wanted to
Joe Biden, when he was still able to form a complete Senate, said it. Atlanta's cop city is the model.
Yeah, it sure did. Tony, I wanted to bring you in. This is the conversation I wanted to bring you into, Right. This is Tony Irvin Washington. This is the aunt of Andrew Washington, and Tony. This is a sample of the conversation that we're having tomorrow around the film Reimagining Safety that I was trying to get you to. Right. She's got her hands tied up with some organizing around her nephew and some resources that we're fighting for her community around her nephew that won't allow her to join us tomorrow. But I wanted to get her in because her and her family are mapping out how they want to uplift their nephew's memory on the 27th of August. So Tony, welcome back to All Politics Are Local, and tell us just what you and family want to do and want the community to support you on the 27th of August. You're muted, Tony. We can't hear you.
Well, it's your mic. You're not muted, but your mic is not on.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Now you're muted. Hold on. Unmute yourself.
And turn your volume up.
Yeah, turn your volume up, maybe.
And then this queen and her sister were in the streets with us last Saturday while she's adjusting her sound when we shut down Broaden Market for Sonia Massey. Her community has been very vocal, very mobile, and very present in a mass protest way in the wake of the loss of her nephew. I'm very proud of how Jersey City has come out for this family and how this family has navigated that very traumatic space of trying to manage what happens to a family when you lose a loved one in that kind of violence. How's your sound now? Give us a mic check. No, your sound is still down. Your sound is still down. Yes. Go out and come back in. We here. Go out and just come back in and check your volume when you come in. You should be all right. Your visual is fine. Yeah.
No question, right? Like when you are talking about elections, right? I'm one to say that no, elections don't mean that you vote for your savior at all, right? But a lot of the activists that I know are voting particular ways because they're trying to choose the people they got to fight, right? On a local level, elections incredibly important. Voting incredibly important because you put people in place who actually have your values. And part of organizing, or the end of organizing, is to get people in place who will put policies in place, like in Newark, right? When you have the Anti-Violence Coalition and dealing with violence as a public health issue, that was just a slogan in the streets, right? People just talked about it, and then it went from being talking about it to electing people who understood how to deal with, to reimagine what public safety is, to the point where the deputy mayor in Newark is Keisha Yuri, who is the deputy mayor for public safety, who reimagines it, who is like social workers and the things that we're talking about that we, love in policing, right? So when you're talking about elections, are you saying don't vote, is no difference between Stacey Abrams and the current mayor and the current governor of Georgia? Or are you just saying voting is about more than that? It is voting on a national level, on a state level, but it's more than that. What is the stance on it?
Yeah, it's really I'm dubious about that, because I know that focusing hyper local does make a difference, because when you're talking about your municipality, your county, those places, and your state, those laws, those ordinances, they affect you most directly and most immediately. And honestly, that's usually where you're going to get the most bang for your voting buck if you focus hyper local, because yes, you can get organizers in, you can get activists in. I mean, the mayor of Newark, Ras Baraka, he was an activist, has been involved in all types of movement in Newark. But I'm radicalized to the point now where I see that even in those times, you get in and you start making deals and you start compromising. And if you are not just a really dogged person who is going to stand on your stuff, like you're going to stand on business all the time, then what we end up having is maybe a year or two of some movement. And then the next thing you know, we out here fighting again. So I'm at a point right now where I'm questioning and I'm interrogating whether in this whole electoral process, we are lending ourselves to constant struggle. Like, do we want the struggle to ever be over? And if we do, how are we going to make it be over? And when I look at this whole system of electoral politics, I am more and more of the opinion that we will never dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. We can try and try as we may. We can gain some ground. We can get some things. We can push back some things. And mind you, I was around when the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition and Salam Ismail and the United Youth group were trying to get trying to make violence like a public health crisis in the state of New Jersey. I was around to see this even come into legislation where things have been declared, like gun violence is declared a public health crisis. That makes a difference and that does move the needle. But how many people do we have that are really going to stand on business 100% of the time? Because when it comes down to it, I've seen those people get into these positions. And yeah, sometimes you got to get something rather than having nothing. But at what cost? At what expense?
But isn't it about the movement itself, right? Not about the individual, but the people and the collective that's behind them, right? Like getting
definitely got to be.
Because one of the things I realized, even with what happened in Newark, is that something like how we dealt with lead water lines, because there was communication between the local level and the state level, there was also, with the infrastructure bill that got passed, there was $36 billion in funding across the United States for the lead pipe removal that was paid for by the federal government as opposed to by private individual owners, right? Like I do think that the struggle is forever, but I think the struggle is forever whether you're a white supremacist, because they were laying underground and now they have used their electoral power to do what they do, right? They're trying to keep us from voting every way they can in all places, Georgia, every place there are Black people. They try to keep us from voting and collectively organizing because they fear our power. Isn't that there's never going to be, like, isn't the reality of we're human beings, we have different interests, and the white supremacists will never give up, and so we should never give up, but it's always about balance and counterbalance and organizing for long terms and short terms?
Not definitely. And when you think about it in that context, voting is a tactic. It's one tactic, and it ain't for everybody. At the end of the day, there's got to be a diversity of tactics for things to really go the way we need them to, and for us to make some real substantial change. And I mean, I think about here in Newark. I remember when we had the issue in Flint, Michigan. I was living in Jersey at the time. And when all that happened in Flint, we found out there were like 12 municipalities in Jersey with lead levels higher than Flint, Newark being one of them. And yes, we were able to get some federal funding to do the lead piping and whatever. But then you had petty stuff going on, like the mayor getting upset with a state assemblyman because he sent pallets of water into Newark. Like, the pettiness goes with politics as well. And a lot of times it doesn't benefit the people. And mind you, again, it's just me, because I am still being radicalized further when it comes to voting, because I used to be a person that believed that if you did not vote, oh my goodness, you may as well just lay down and die, because oh my God, your vote is your voice. And if you don't vote, what are you really doing? People got to make their decisions according to how they want to live in this life. The messages that they want to send was good for them and their posterity, and for how they want to show up in movement. So I'm not saying to people, don't vote. Vote if you want to. You do you. But those who organize and continue in principle struggle will also continue with other tactics.
Okay. May I add something real quick? I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but I love what Reverend Keyanna said about, voting being a tactic. And so part of, the 61 screenings across the country is I've been in community with 80 plus organizations who are divesting from the system, who are taking care of one another, who are serving the community, who are for the people. And there's a book, Radical Dharma, where the authors talk about, like, you're either for the people or you're not for the people. And if you're for the people, then you got to live that way, and you got to be about it, and you got to live by example. And so the system is not for the people, policing is not for the people, and it never will be. And so yes, voting is an element. So having been in community with all these different groups, voting is part of it, but is not everything. Being in community is part of it, is a big part of it. Doing our own, this gets talked about in the film, our own internal work and dealing with our individual trauma is part of it. Dealing with our collective trauma is part of it. Decolonizing our minds and how we've been living, and being real about the impacts of colonization and imperialism, which I don't think we really go far enough or deep enough to get what the impact has been and how that's fed into where we're at now. So there's a lot of work, right? And it's all important. And if we're talking about liberation, we really have to be finding the ways to divest from these systems that are not here to serve us.
And although I think that all of those multiplicity of strategies are so incredibly important, I think that right now we are at a state where, if voting is simply a way that it determines what happens with money that we all give anyway, right? Money is going someplace, and the money is being spent by somebody, and it's usually being spent against us, right? So it's a collective power that if we are not a part of it, we literally are ceding, like, because we don't have a choice about our money. Our money goes to somebody to be used for or against us. And it's just whether or not we want to have a say in how that is used for or against us, not as the strategy or end, but as a very minimal, this is about community protection, because the money is getting used for police and prisons, or it's being used for schools, but it's going to get used. And a vote simply is that, right? Because we're taxed. We don't got a choice in taxes. We got to pay it. And money is going to be used for police, military, or it's going to be used hospitals, schools. But the organizing and all those other pieces, right? Yes. But I would never diminish what voting is, because it's the only way to wield power without murdering each other.
And also running candidates who are vetted, who can be in positions to enact those policies. Because I think, a lot of time, like we have our options for voting, but a lot of times that's dictated. I think most of the time that's dictated to us what our options are. And so if we can get, and I say get people in who are vetted, because, in Los Angeles, we have a Democratic mayor who was an activist at one point, and she's talking about wanting to increase the number of police, and has raised raised the pay for police. We had 2 city council people who ran on abolitionist platforms, one of whom voted to increase the pay for police officers after, for a year, being like, oh, we need to defund the police and fund programs. So like we really there has to be a vetting process. We have to know who's who, and there are things, obviously, when people get into the system, then they gotta be protected from selling out.
But is it a vetting process or an accountability process?
Both.
Because the accountability process, I think, is like, you don't do what I say, we vote you out of office, we don't give you money. The reason police gets its way most of the time is because they give money, they back with votes, they have people support them, they get like hundreds of thousands of dollars to individual candidates. The reason why 2 progressive congressmen just got knocked out was because we have AIPAC, who's very organized, who gives lots of money and gives lots of cares, and can organize apparently on the ground better than other people could have organized their own people on the ground. Like I just, when people talk about alternatives and alternative ways, I think that's necessary. But if voting is a tactic, it's a tactic for what? And I think it's a tactic of accountability, which is why they try to take it away. They don't want felons to vote, not because felons are bad people, but they don't want their communities represented.
Just really quick, I like the focus on, and you're right, yeah, the vote is tied to the money and how does resources get allocated. I think this leads into a much larger, and who knows, maybe next year, Matthew, next year we're going to do Reimagining Capitalism, because I think this leads into a much bigger conversation about our relationship with capital. The fact that and this is true, like this is not even a knock on you, but the fact that how money and capital resources are used dictates our vote to such a degree that we ignore our day-to-day material conditions when we're making a choice of who to vote for is really warped and disturbing. And it's not just us here, it's the entire world, it's the entire global capitalist system. And at a certain point, we as a human society in the United States and abroad have to really look at, is capitalism actually continuing to benefit us? Has it ever benefited us? And I think particularly us in the Black community, my own personal viewpoints on it aside for a second, we've been fed certain pieces of information that are perhaps no longer useful to it. Like there is a period in time I think we can kind of look at really objectively and say, yes, these myths that we were given and these things that we were told were very useful. But you know, the things I was told when I was 10 are not necessarily relevant to my life now that I'm in my 30s. So at what point do we as a society kind of reevaluate the system we're living under? And just as far as like the vote thing, I mean, yes, voting is relevant. It's a tactic, it's a tool, it's necessary, it's important. But again, to the point that I think, you know, Reverend Keyanna was getting at and that Mathew was getting at is that, I mean, we're all going to vote in November and it's the same thing it was 4 years ago. And there are two choices. And we're continuing to be in this position and this situation where there are constantly only two choices, but there are actually more than two choices. I mean, there are other people on the ballots in different states. There are more people, there are other candidates getting ballot access in different states every day. But because of the way the system is constructed, reasonably, those candidates at this point in time don't stand a chance. And so how can we all work together to educate each other and to really get on the same page about maybe using our vote in the ways that support our material conditions? Like if I were voting towards my material conditions, I personally would not be voting for either candidate. And I think perhaps that's, well, either of the major party candidates. I think for the average everyday person, if they literally took a whiteboard and said, what are the things impacting my day-to-day life? Now, what are the policies of the individual people that are on the top of the ticket? I think a lot of people would actually have to acknowledge that maybe those people are not, the things they're running on and their policies are perhaps not, you know, fully, maybe they are, you know, everyone's different.
There's a whole lot I want us to get into. We're up against the clock because we got another guest in the background. And I'm so reminded of 68 and 72, because this is a very important moment for your generation. Right? I'm talking to my young heads. This is a very important moment for your generation. And we've seen this before. 1968 was one of the bloodiest years in this country in terms of social justice. And by the way, a lot of the blood was spilled at in front of and inside the Democratic Party's convention in Chicago. And we're back in Chicago at a time when police is being weaponized to put down a very legitimate and very diverse Palestinian solidarity movement. And it is one of the issues of the times, of this particular time, and it's being crushed. The Black Panther Party called for a national united front against fascism in 1968 also, right? And so in all of that, you know, all of that push to the left, you know, the failure to unite led to a surge to the right. And it's one of the worries of this time, and this the place of your generation and trying to figure that out may be the difference in terms of how this plays out one way or another. And I want to, as an elder, I want to apologize to you that, you know, we're back there. You know, there was a time when we didn't think that we would be back this far, but we are, right? And we have to face that for what it is. Now, finally, we got a ritual question for all of you. But Tony, how is your sound now?
It's better. You can hear me?
All right. Now, I wanted her to make sure she got on to talk about what's going to happen in Jersey City for the 27th. So let's try it again. Take it from the top, my queen.
Yes. Again, I want to thank you for having me. this conversation has been phenomenal because even off camera, I was listening
You heard
in,
it. Yes.
and I was very impressed by Reverend Keyanna. I haven't heard of her before, and now I'm going to be searching and looking for her more often. Even hearing Jonathan's story, kind of, was feeling how we felt with my nephew, because we were outside the house when they showed up, and we called for an ambulance, and they called the police. And it just turned ugly, even when he told them to go away, get away from his door, get away from his house, and they bust into his place, and he was fatally shot. But besides that, it's gonna be a year come August 27th, and in this time, my family has been advocating, fighting, protesting, just bringing more awareness to the mental health crisis and issues and the problems that we are seeing with violence with our police. And we're putting together a little documentary about what we've done for this year. Brother Zaid Muhammad spoke about the Seabrook Washington Act that was signed by the governor in January of this year, with giving it was $12 million that was supposed to go between 6 counties.
That's right.
And we're working on that. Our county, and I'm in Hudson County because this happened in Jersey City. Our county did not even get the money, because this very same hospital that failed Drew, almost a year ago, is the hospital that applied for the same grant for the monies that was being allocated. It would be $2 million for the Hudson County area. So they failed. So now I'm working with a group of people to try to come together with a community-led coalition to apply for that money. It is $2 million to start, helping or giving something towards the community-led response act, helping bring forth those efforts. We know that $2 million is not a lot of money, but it can begin to start some efforts, and it's supposed to also touch into having police be trained with, we had a program here that, ironically, Jersey City, before my nephew was killed the year before, our city council voted on it. It was called the Ride Together, and they voted to have that happen. However, it never went to fruition, and nothing happened.
That's right. That's a program.
Yes. Then that RFP was on the table back in December with $4.2 million. Somehow the city stopped talking about it. Once we got the Seabrook Washington monies from the state level, all of a sudden we haven't heard anything else about the $4.2 million that the city already had allocated for mental health response and police training and de-escalation. So we're still struggling and fighting against that and trying to figure out who actually has that money and where did it go, and working on getting our coalition with people. We're working with our local anti-violence in Jersey City agencies to lobby for that money and put in their RFP for it. We have until the 19th of this month to come together with the proposal to see if we can receive those funds. However, we're still in a struggle. Nothing in Jersey City has changed how they police in Jersey City, especially the mental health community. Actually, our mayor, when my nephew was shot and killed, he had a press conference within like 9 hours from that day, because it was on a Sunday afternoon. By Monday morning, 9 in the morning, first thing in the morning, he was on television, on every television station he had here in the tri-state area. in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, stating that the police justifiably killed him. He said, oh, it was a just shooting. And I said, we called for a mental crisis situation to come for help. And you say the police killed him. Because when they came into my nephew's home, he was near a window. And then when he seen them bust down the door, he picked up a knife. So then they shot and killed him. After they bust into his home, they didn't announce themselves, and they bust in and they shot him.
That's exactly how they do.
So
exactly how they do. So Tony, and that's a lot to walk through, right?
yeah.
How are y'all going to observe the anniversary of losing Drew on the 27th?
We're just going to show the documentary of the things we've been doing. Trying to work with the city council, trying to keep the people motivated so they'll continue to come out and protest against the things that are happening. So a lot of things we did in Jersey City that wasn't happening in Jersey City, even though we've had police brutality and killings, but no one has come out and, marched in any of these events. We're going to just bring everyone together, try to invite as many of the politicians and the activists and community organizers to come out and, discuss some of the things that are happening. People that have been on the board, we are working on developing a stronger community and a coalition with more community people, especially with the mental health community. I get calls in reference to people that have been unjustly treated from our police department or the health department when the mental health community does not are treated fairly. And I don't really know what to do. So even listening to you, because I didn't know, like we were talking about voting rights. I'm like, is that the way to go? Speaking to our elected officials and protesting and showing up at the council meetings. Is that the way to go? We had showed up so much and there was so many people. Our city council started giving out tickets, first come, first serve, and they would only give out 100 tickets. So no more than 100 people would show up at the council meetings. So then that kind of tried to stop us from even showing up or people
Afraid of the people.
So it's just been,
we call that gatekeeping.
Yeah, we're just trying to find ways that we can do just to bring awareness to this and try to just help the mental health community, because there's so many people suffering. A lot of people here in Jersey City are suffering. And like we were there for Sonia Massey. It's just so disheartening. You just feel so helpless. That's how I feel sometimes. Yeah, but I still know I have to show up for things.
And you also know that you're not alone. And just one last point, and then we're going to ask y'all a ritual question, and we got to get to the next segment, right?
Yeah.
Right in the aftermath of Sonia Massey, a young woman was killed in Fort Lee, New Jersey, by the police in a mental health crisis, right? And they kept that quiet for weeks. We've been identifying who this young woman was, instead of raising the bar around the changes that they've already said they were going to commit to, right? The Attorney General touts arrived together. That's his program, but it is not operational in all of the places where we need it, right? That kind of stuff, just like an ambulance center or an emergency call center, stuff should be 24-hour operational, because that's the nature of how that thing needs to work, right? None of those things are fully implemented, whether it's what we advocate for in terms of community-led stuff or what they advocate in terms of a co-led model with the police and the mental health practitioners. So there's work to do. We got to hold these jokers accountable, and we need to come. Y'all generation, to talking to Maya and Naomi and Keyanna got off. We need a whole new slate of folks to go into to challenge these jive folks who gatekeep and get rid of them. We need a clean house in Atlanta, and we need a clean house in all those places where we got gatekeepers like that, right? They need to be afraid of the people. That's what they need to be afraid of the people, because that's where the power is supposed to be, right? So Jonathan, ask Maya and Naomi. Tony's been on before, Matthew's been on, but we ask him anyway. Or we'll let Rhino ask him. Then we jump into this next session. I know this is heavy, y'all, but this is why we're here and why we do what we do.
And why we all have to have you all back and back on a more regular basis, because we didn't get a chance to have nearly the conversation that we needed.
Yeah, I ain't never heard nobody from the Chamber of Commerce talking about capitalism like a dog. I love that shit. Don't
tell on me. Don't tell on me.
That's a wonderful contradiction.
Right.
I had to get that in.
Personal views are not the views of my employer. Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer.
And just, you did say reimagining, so
that's
there's
right.
that.
Oh yeah, we gonna rock that word.
Right.
Yeah, I work in venture capital, so I'm at the forefront of it too.
Again,
disclaimer.
Right.
That's right. You got to break it off to the people.
Right. So, for a question we asked everyone, who is your favorite hip hop artist, individual or group? Or who you're rocking with now? Like, it could be that.
Gangstar.
Wow.
Okay.
Eric B. and Rakim.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna say, Rakim.
Okay. He's got a new album out.
I was getting ready to say, yeah, just got something new out too.
Yep. Rest in peace to Chino XL, who has a verse on that album too.
All right.
Yep,
Right.
We talked about that last week. Right on. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Naomi? Who you rocking with? Who inspires you?
I see you over there.
I'm a Kendrick Lamar fan.
Kendrick Lamar, that's what
Poet for the win, right?
No, seriously, yeah.
That's what's up. What about you, Maya?
So I'm gonna do some shameless self-promotion, but I actually really do love this artist. So Division X, a hip-hop group out of the Bronx. They're super talented. My partner's group.
Say that name again?
Division X. They've actually performed a few times in Newark. They did Juneteenth last year. I would love their music even. That wasn't my man, but Division X, incredible. Look them up.
That's what's up.
You were getting that question from the great DJ Rhino. This is our DJ. This is our month too. Right.
Actually, Naomi knows me because we worked at Brick City Jam.
Yes.
That was you up in the chat.
Yeah.
Yes. It's so much alignment. Like
everybody. It's like everybody's connected some kind of way. You know.
Yes. It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing.
Divine timing.
And Tony, you already said Rakim, right? And so we have everyone to get in there. It's good. So thank you so much for this segment. We're definitely going to have you back on and continue.
Express Newark, 12 o'clock.
Right. And definitely want to get the Reverend back on to talk more about Georgia. That's probably going to be one of the hottest states in the next few months. So definitely want to have all of you back. So thank you so much. Honor to talk to all of you. Great having Mathew. Great having you back on again.
Thank you.
With the film, I'm going to rent it on Amazon Prime in a bit, right?
Awesome.
Right.
Yeah, Amazon, Tubi, YouTube, and Google Play. It's on all of them.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Tony, I'm proud of you, baby. I'll see you soon.
All right, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so hey, welcome. And we have been talking about having you on the show for a long time, and thank you, Rhino, for making this happen. And Rhino, I'll let you introduce the segment.
Well, this is my man right here. We go way back to back in the graffiti days. So I always got to catch myself because I always call him Ezra because that was his name. You know what I'm saying? In the streets, Ezra.
Wow.
He catches some of his artwork and some of his pieces. Yeah. But this is my man. Timur. Brother Timur.
Not know the artists. Timur is
Yeah,
quite an artist. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. My brother Timur Davis, man. You know, he always likes to say how he's, you know, he's just a librarian. You know what I'm saying? But he's you know, he's really so much more than just a librarian, man. You know, when it comes to not just my circle and my family, you know, Boom Squad and Boss Mob and all of us, but just in the culture of hip hop, man. He's been doing a lot recently, man. Just putting a lot of things together for the culture of hip hop, for different aspects, different elements of the culture. He's done stuff. He's done stuff for the breakers. He's done stuff for graffiti writers. You know what I'm saying? He's still doing stuff. He's always doing stuff for the graph writers. And you know, he has his own magazine called Do Funk Magazine, and he's doing some things. And I really just want, see, I was about to say Ezra. I just really want Timur to just come on and talk about what he's doing recently. What's going on with the latest issue and what you got going on, because it's summertime and I know summertime there's always things popping, man. What you got going on?
Well, at this point now, I've just had helped Brick City Jams actually create their nonprofit. I'm on the board to Brick City Jams at this point now. We actually did a great event over the summer in the Alberton Walls. We invited graffiti artists from New York, Philadelphia, different parts of the country. They actually flew out to actually be a part of this event. And it was 4 days of an event. It started actually 3 days. It started Friday of July 19th, and it ended on the 21st. And it was well renowned. We had up to maybe 400 or 500 people out there. And it was a really, really great event. And we're continuing to do ongoing events. I've been doing ongoing cultural events at my library, where I'm the library director in Mount Vernon, New York. I'm gearing up for an upcoming program in Mount Vernon sometime in December in commemoration of DMX. In fact, one of DMX's uncle worked with me at the library, so we're gearing up for this program. So as Brother Rhino had made mention of, these particular type cultural programs for me, it's not just about the cultural programs, it's not just about the arts, but I see it in view of social engineering, and we're going to continue to do that. We're putting everything together, from the arts to the music, to the politics, to research, and really moving forward in a really progressive way. One of the things that I'm working on now, I'm working on a paper entitled "Graffiti in the Dynamic Sphere," because what I'm doing with that particular paper, I want to talk about the history of graffiti, the social dynamics of graffiti in terms of the different crews that develop, not just in New York, but I went as far back as looking at some information from the 1920s, where there were writers writing on the wall in view of protests. And if you really go into the history of graffiti and or graffito, it means to scribble or to scratch, so on and so forth. And if you go into the petroglyph aspect of graffiti, we're talking about maybe 40,000 years of people actually writing on the wall in different parts of the world. And if you look at some of the similarities of those writings, it's something that's been forever. And so what I really wanted to do was talk about what was the zygotes or the change in dynamics of New York in terms of which really pushed graffiti. One of the things that was very important in terms of moving graffiti forward in the state of New York is the assassination of Martin Luther King. There were writers during the 50s and 60s, like during the 60s, Super Cool, and a lot of the writers that actually wrote. But it wasn't until the actual assassination of Martin Luther King where writers wrote all of the 5 boroughs in a really big way, because they was writing in view of protests against the United States government and the impact of the killing of Martin Luther King. I talked to one writer by the name of Staff 161. They were the first writers in the state of New York that actually wrote on the trains. Prior to that, you had Taki, but even before Taki 183, you had Super Cool. And a lot of these writers wrote because of the social conditioning in the United States, and specifically in New York. During the 70s, for example, when Bain was in position as the mayor, there were a lack of resources. And then the environment existed in such a way of Garrow's idea of the broken window theory. And it left the community without any financial resources, which led to the proliferation of gangs. In some reports I read, there was over, in certain areas in New York, over 11,000 members and over 100 gangs in the city of New York. 11,000 gang members. Each gang had up to 1,000 members, and you had large gangs. One of the gangs is Black Spades. You had the Ghetto Brothers. You had a plethora of different gangs across the country because of the fact that there was a lack of financial resources and assistance to the community. The Five Barrels was left unconditionally depressed when Bain went to the president of New York of the country for resources. They declined to give New York the necessary resources that it needed to move forward, which led to the plethora of gangs, to the drugs, and what have you. And one of the things that came out of those gangs is, for example, Black Spades. And Black Spades was able to morph itself into the Universal Zulu Nation. And the Universal Zulu Nation was able to take some of those young minds and give them some sense of culture and some direction. And with the help of the brothers actually performing, that's what led them from the gang violence to more so a cultural reality of we have to help ourselves and be aware of making sure that we maintain our communities in the city of in the state of New York. So those are some of the things that I've been working on, because I just don't want to talk about the 50th anniversary of hip hop. I want to go into what happened during that time. What was the social conditions? What was the political conditions? What was the economic conditions that led to people to look at hip hop as a resource for cultural awareness, to be able to help heal ourselves, and then also impact positively in our communities. One of the things that happened is that, as we know, gang violence is not something that's antiquated. I mean, something that's just new. It's not new at all. One of the gang members that was actually killed. If you've seen the movie Warriors, a lot of people look at it from a fictitious point of view, but there was some truth to that particular movie. And Cornell Benjamin, who they call Black Benji, was the person that was helping to bring the gangs together to quell the gang violence and stop it. Unfortunately, in the midst of him trying to maintain some sense of order amongst the gangs, he was killed. There's a lot of controversy about his killing, but that's what happened. And so there were gangs.
In the Warriors, that was the Cyrus character, right?
Yeah, that was the Cyrus character. And
Right.
So that Cyrus character was actually a depiction of Cornell Benjamin. Or Black Benji.
Right.
Yeah. So and what happened, it showed how economically depressed the state of New York was, especially in all of the Black and brown areas in the state of New York. You had a plethora of gangs all over the state, if you will, especially the Five Barrels. And to survive, you had to be associated in one way or another in that particular reality, because you actually had your folkways and mores in the inner cities, and in your culture and your laws, your codes, what have you, from the laws that were established by a number of those gangs. And out of the gangs, you also had people being able to ascertain resources, and then they started advocating for themselves. For example, Benjamin, who Brother Benjamin, who rest in peace to be upon him, who actually led the Ghetto Brothers. They were advocating and going against the government and fighting to make sure that we have the necessary resources that we need in the inner city, in the communities. And that was threatening to the establishment, and it's threatening to the enlargement of what was taking place in the overall society. They wanted to change society, but again, William Julius Wilson actually talks about that, the totally disadvantaged. And during this particular time in our country, our communities were totally disadvantaged because we were depleted from all the resources that was needed to move forward. If you can't talk about graffiti and not talk about the lack of resources and the lack of funding that went to the urban schools, whereby there were no more art classes, no more music classes. In some instances, people became totally disenfranchised with school because there were not enough resources to make sure that you hold the interests of the students and the parents. That was the reality that we faced during this particular time in the state of New York, and that impacted across the country. I mean, you had people who was not able to survive off government means, government resources, and in many instances, some of the people were actually scared to go into the inner city because of the proliferation of gangs. The other impact that was a moving zeitgeist in terms of the gangs, and not only the gangs, but the impact of the disparity in New York, was the 1977 blackout. During the 1977 blackout, those individuals who did not have the necessary resources for food, clothing, shelter, and what have you, and they didn't actually exist in a world of equality, if you will, they felt as if they were disenfranchised from their necessary rights and privileges. When the blackout came, there was a lot of looting and a lot of breaking into stores to be able to ascertain necessary resources so that people can feed themselves, clothe themselves, and what have you.
Blackout, yes.
That blackout was significant. There were numerous blackouts before that, 1960, 1955, but that 1977 blackout was very, very impactful. And we're talking about a blackout after the assassination of Martin Luther King. We're talking about the assassination of many of our Black leaders in the country, and that weighed heavily on the psyche, the social psyche of the collective people during that particular time. So,
and New York City was bankrupt at this point too, as well.
Yes. So, and
so people were living hard.
So the whole idea of graffiti and the way it's established for those during the 1960s and 1970s, you was not going to be a graffiti artist and go in and buy the spray paint and buy the markers. I'm sorry, that the idea of being a graffiti artist was to be able to go against the establishment and rack and or steal the resources and then mark up the trains and or mark up the buildings, so on and so forth, because it was cathartic for those particular individuals, because there was no real sense of belief in the government, in the establishment, that they would help maintain their rights and privileges and what have you. They felt totally disenfranchised. Again, Bame, the mayor, had went to before the president asking for resources, and the president of the United States refused to give resources, financial resources, to help with their fiscal administration of the state of New York, especially in the 5 boroughs. So that's the situation that was taking place during that time. So hip hop was actually birthed out of
that. That's right. That's the vortex.
Hip hop was birthed out of chaos. So
that's right.
So you
way out of no way for that generation. That's right.
Yeah. So you can't talk about hip hop and not talk about the disparaging reality that those people who had to find means of survival. If you look at the movie Beat Street, for example, when they was actually building an apartment in an abandoned building in the South Bronx for the writer Rhino. That was something that was taking place. That was part of reality. People who didn't have any lights, they would go out and get lights from on the outside, do whatever they have to do, and they lived that way. They were,
they called it squatting.
Yeah, they were a group of neglected people, and they were neglected by the state of New York government. They were neglected by the United States government, and they were left to die, if you will, and they had to find means to survive. And so that's what. Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you real quick. Have you or were you thinking of ever doing like a detailed film or documentary on the history of hip hop in the way that you're speaking of it now? Because you're really breaking it down, and I'm picturing all of this stuff going down chronologically.
Yeah.
And yeah, I could see you doing a film or something like that for this.
Yeah, I mean, and see what happens is it's good that you say
that. And finding the stories of you had me literally look up the story of the 25-year-old Cornell Benjamin.
Yeah.
And like looking at the stuff that he did, like just listening to you forced me to do my own like look back. So yes, great question.
So and what happens is that now when you fast forward, you're talking about a multi-trillion-dollar industry that was birthed out of chaos, and there's no sense of accountability in hip hop. I mean, I think it became so corporatized that it's just about the dollar and it's just about the money. So it's a reverse of what happened during the 1970s and 1960s, whereby you have people with a prodigious amount of money, but they're killing their own the same way that they did during the 60s and 70s when we fought to get ourselves out of that reality and maintain and sustain themselves. I think a lot of those lessons, because they had their folkways, they had their mores, they had their laws in which they were able to survive out of that intense sense of chaos. In some instances, some people didn't even have any lights, so they go right outside, plug up, and get their lights. You know, and so they were treated. If you look at the trail of tears, or if you look at the way in which the bands of the Indian ethnic groups in this country was actually just thrown out, and their land was stolen and taken away from them. So the president of the United States refused to give the necessary resources, financial resources, to the state of New York, to the Black and brown people. That's very impactful. That's very impactful.
I know we're running low on time. We only have a few minutes left, but in that, I'm just a little curious. Fast forward 50 years, are you going to watch breakdancing on the Olympics tonight? What do you think about that? Is that progress or regress? Is it great or nah? How you feel? Like, how do people who are like, live into hip hop feel about the Olympics?
It's not breakdown. I would say it's not progress. It's not because it's not a historical. It's a historical anachronism. It's out of sync of time, because most of those people that's doing the dances from different parts of the world, they can't point to the history of where hip hop had actually came about. We're not just talking about 71. We're not just talking about the 50s. We're not talking about the 40s. We're talking about as far back as Capoeira, far back as Brazil, far back as Africa, because you're not going to have those dance styles, or it's prehistory. It's not brand new to us, but we don't look at that. What we do is we stop at hip hop and say, this is when hip hop began. Some people argue August 11, 1973. But we've been doing this for eons.
So Tamor, do you feel that the breakdancers in the Olympics today are not educated on the history?
I don't think that the facilitators of the Olympics are educated about this. Neither nor do they care, because it's a multi-billion-dollar endeavor. Just the way in which hip hop is a multi-billion-dollar endeavor. You don't care about the history more so than caring about how can you benefit.
Right.
So if you don't know the history, you may know how to do the move sets and so on and so forth, but are you paying homage? And if you're paying homage, are you making sure that the government structures are paying homage to make sure that there's establishments set up and institutions set up to make sure that there's a great sense of cultural continuity, to pay homage the same way in which when people come to the United States, they have to pay homage to the founding fathers, who they call the founding fathers of this country, so they can know who started it, who was involved. They're not going to talk about the impact of what they did in terms of David Montero's book entitled The Stolen Wealth of Slavery. They're not going to talk about that aspect because that's too eerie. But the reality is the history is not always nice. It's dirty. It's not always clean. But you can't negate that history because of you want it to be nice. And I think the world wants hip hop to be a nice endeavor because of the fact now it's making money. But during the time when hip hop had began, most people, hip hop was shunned. It was something that was anomaly from the reality of what was taking place.
Hey. Yeah, no, that's a definite thing, man. You know, I know a lot of people were feeling funny about, you know, seeing a lot of different other nationalities representing breakdance in the Olympics. You know, a lot of Asians and other folks. But I mean, for me, I was kind of looking at it like, you know, that just kind of spoke to how the distance that hip hop made. You know what I mean? Globally, like hip hop has all the elements have reached so many other ethnicities, you know what I'm saying, around the globe, that everybody's jumped in on the culture, you know what I'm saying? So I didn't see that as a bad thing, but I'm hearing what you're saying as far as the institutions being built up through, you know, by the government, you know what I'm saying? And really representing for the people who created the culture that created the moves and the steps that we see today in the Olympics. So that I definitely agree with you.
And like I'm saying, like most of the people that can do the dance and do the break dance, they probably their family and parents are they have a plethora of money. They're affluent. They can take them to the gym. They may have a gym downstairs in their basement. They may have all those resources. People had the break dance on asphalt outside on cardboard with no resources.
Yeah.
No resources. You see what I'm saying? And then in the instances, they loved it so much that they would actually engage in criminal behavior to actually engage in a recreational reality.
That's right. That's right.
Most definitely.
So by definition, an underground art.
Yeah. But some more, we running short on time, man. I really want to ask you, what do you have in the works now? You got anything that's going on? Anything coming up that you want to share?
How's your film doing? I asked that too.
Say it again.
Because he did. Well, last time he was with us, he broke off a piece of his film for us.
Yeah. What's going on with the film?
Oh, that film is done. It's complete. I share it with you. I did the film on Diesel. I finished the film with Brother Hafiz Fareed. I'm one of the producers on Maya Angelou. We finished the film on entitled Brother Hafiz and the team. We finished the film entitled Two Sons of Georgia. That actually talks about the meeting between Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Martin Luther King. February 24th, 1968. So that's a done film.
Years.
We finished the film based on Charles Ogletree's book entitled The Presumption of Guilt. But it has Alan Dershowitz, Anita Hill, and some other noted lawyers in that particular film.
Okay. Now, where is there anywhere specific that we can find these films?
We're in the midst of uploading Maya Angelou to Film Hub, which allows an individual to have various different distribution channels and networks. So that we're in the midst of that, and we're going to do that with the other films that we completed as well.
Okay, so Film Hub, we'll be looking out for that.
So if you have Film Hub, you can link it to Tubi, you can link it to PBS, link it to other different type of distribution film outlets. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Yeah, man. Definitely keep us posted on all that you're doing, man. You always working. You know, I'm always checking on you. You know what I'm saying?
We family. We got to check the pulse, brother.
Yeah, you know it. You know it. You know it.
You got to check the pulse. But I'm having fun. I love doing research. I love learning. I'm a student forever, and I'm gonna continue to learn and share. That's my role.
What's that?
I can't do this anymore, but I can still spray paint.
Yeah, I see your work, man. You still got it, bro.
Oh,
Yeah.
How's the library up in Mount Vernon?
Yeah. Things are going great in Mount Vernon. Mentioned we're gonna do the DMX event commemorating his family in December around his birthday. Have some of his family members come out. All are welcome to come. We're actually, hopefully, I'll be able to showcase or share that information with All Politics Are Local. I love the show. I love the title of the show. If you haven't, you need to trademark it. It's a dope idea. You know, nobody's stealing it, you know. But that's what I basically do. I try to help the artists with copyright, trademark, registering their companies, how to develop proposals, stuff like that. I've been doing that for quite some time. And I don't even ask for a penny. I just want to be able to share, you know, because I'm looking at what can you do for the people coming behind us.
Right on to that. Right on to that.
All right. And was the ritual question asked?
Yeah, not yet.
Tamor, who you listening to in hip hop today?
You know who I'm listening to? I'm listening to Gangstar.
Gangstar.
Rest
in peace, Guru.
And the album, what was that album? Step in the Arena.
Oh,
I love that album.
Yeah,
I love that album.
Yeah.
That album is like so dynamic. I play it and I just go into my little, like the way he's dropping it. He was pathetic and pathetic with it. He was. I love that album. And then the scratches. He sounds like a jazz musician the way he's just willing that turntable and stuff like that.
Yeah, DJ Premier, man, definitely, man. They were one of our ultimate combos, man, in hip hop, man.
That's my favorite album. Step in the Arena. Yeah, you know, and all the lessons that he was giving to the audience. It's
a classic.
Yes, it's dope. So that's the album I'm listening to, and I'm gonna continue to listen to it. But I purchased the Common album, the Auditorium. That's dope.
Yeah,
that's dope.
Yeah,
that's dope.
I
was impressed.
All the way through.
I was very impressed. Pete Rock did his thing on the tables, and I like that they brought it back. They brought it back on purpose.
Yeah,
you know, because it's they're trying to bring that conscious rap, and I think that Kendrick Lamar actually raised the bar, where you have to think at this point now. You're not just going to be able to get on a mic and freestyle, because there's no style free. When you get on this mic, people died to make sure people get on. So you're gonna have to come up. You're gonna have to bring it, or you can't get on the stage. And that's his style actually raised the bar, and they're holding people accountable, because now you have to be smart about it. You can't just say what you want to say.
Yeah, and definitely appreciate it, man. I know where our time is up, and we got to have you back on. I know that Rhino's been trying to get you on for a while, and he's like, "We got to have him on. We got to have him on." I'm like, "We got to have him on more." Right?
Anytime you need me, I'm here. I would do it because of the fact that, you know, being around Clark and brother Zaid and brother Larry Ham, and being around the scholars and stuff like that. Y'all paid a tremendous debt to make sure that we can continue this going. I have to. I'm walking the same path, but not by choice, but by the ancestors. You know, by way of the ancestors. This is what I'm gonna do.
That's right.
All right, cool. Yeah, right. And so, thank you, man. Very much appreciated. Right.
You're one of our scholars, Tamor. You're one of our scholars, brother.
Right.
All I know is what I don't know.
Right. And so,
Yes, sir.
so this has been another good week on All Politics Are Local. We are, we had a lot great conversations all the way through. We'd like to thank all of our guests, all of our many guests that were on here tonight, and hopefully we'll have all of them back for some more, right? Because this was a lively show. We had a good time. So I'm in Atlanta. I know all in different places. We'll see you again next week. Next week is the Mayor's Forum. We're also going to have the superintendent on of Newark Public Schools on, and some other stuff as well. So we'll see you next week. Have fun, be safe, and all that.
Happy born Curtis Blow.
All right.
Whoa, my God. Yes, sir.